Jehovah hide me, I am under the rock. Go tell my enemies, I am under the rock. Jehovah hide me, I am under the rock. Jesus' name so sweet, Emmanuel name so sweet. Jesus' name so sweet, Emmanuel name so sweet. Every rock me rock, my Jesus, Jesus' name so sweet. Every rock me rock, my Jesus, Jesus' name. I've got my mind made up, and I won't turn back, because I want to see my Jesus someday. I've got my mind made up, and I won't turn back, because I want to see my Jesus. Fire, fire, fall on me. Here we go. Fire, 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 fall on me. Fire, 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 fall on me. On the day of Pentecost. That on the day of Pentecost, the fire fall. On the day of Pentecost. That on the day of Pentecost, the fire fall. Let's sing it again. Fire, fire. Fire, 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 fall on me. Fire, 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 fall on me. That on the day of Pentecost, fire fall on me. That on the day of Pentecost, fire fall. I've got my mind made up. I've got my mind made up, and I won't turn back, because I want to see my Jesus someday. I've got my mind made up, and I won't turn back, because I want to see my Jesus. We're gonna sing it again. We're gonna slow it down. I've got my mind made up, and I won't turn back, because I want to see my Jesus someday. I've got my mind made up, and I won't turn back, because I want to see my Jesus someday. Test. Testing. Test.
All right, you guys, we're going to sing an oldie but a goodie. Can you stand to your feet for me? We're going to put our hands together. We're going to sway a little bit to the music. But as we think of the goodness of Jesus, by and by, we'll understand it better. By and by.
When the morning comes,
all right,
when all the saints of God will be gathering home, we're gonna tell the story of how he overcome. We'll understand it better by and by. Oh, by and by,
by and by. When the morning comes, all the saints of God will be gathering home. Gonna tell the story of how we overcome. We'll understand it better by understand it by and by. We'll 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 understand it better by and by. By and by. We'll understand it better by and by. By and by. We'll understand it better by and by.
All right, we're going to get the congregation to join us. Let's see. Where are my sopranos out there? If you sing soprano in the congregation, wave your hands for me. All right. There's a tenor saxophone, right?
Amen.
Alto saxophone. Praise the Lord. There's my alto. Any other altos out here? Awesome. And then we have some tenors. So let's do it again. We're going to get the congregation involved, okay? Right. Let's start again with only sopranos. Only sopranos. And we want the congregation, the sopranos out there to join us, okay? We're going to start with the tenors. I'm sorry. All the tenors. Let me hear you. 1, 2, 3.
We'll understand it by and by.
All the tenors out there.
We'll understand it.
Come on.
By and by.
Come on, tenors.
We'll understand it.
One more time. Come on, tenors.
We'll understand it.
Add in the altos on. We'll
Understand it by and by.
All the altos,
We'll
including the
understand it
saxophone.
by and by. We'll understand it by and by. Yes, we'll understand it by and by. We'll understand it by and by. We'll understand it by and by.
Say we will.
By and by. We'll understand it by and by.
Do it again now. We will.
By and by. We'll understand it by and by.
We will.
By and by.
Come on, congregation.
By and by.
One more time.
We will. By and by. Understand it.
Let's take it home. Oh, we'll understand it by. Oh, by. We'll understand it. We'll understand it by and by. We'll understand it. Oh, by and by. Praise the Lord. This next song says, broken but I'm healed.
Yes.
How many of you can relate today? Yes, broken but I'm healed. Some of us are physically broken. Some of us are spiritually broken. But we know who our healer is, amen?
Yes.
And he has asked us to call on him when we need healing. And so we're going to sing about that a little bit this afternoon, and I pray that your hearts will be blessed. So you enter into this building. You brought your burdens. You brought your pain. But I have a message for you today. That when you leave here, you won't be the same. Yes. So
So you tell me you've been to your physician, but look at you, there's no change in your condition. Reach out and touch the Master's robe. There's healing for your body, your body and your soul. Hallelujah, yes there is. Come on and sing it. God can heal. God can heal. He can heal. How many of you believe that today? He can mend. He can mend. Oh, your brokenness. He has a miracle. That'll fit your need. Yeah. Once you trust Him, you will receive. Come on, do you believe that tonight? Do you believe it tonight? God knows about your situation. But with every test and every trial, there is revelation that God is able to supply your every need. He's here to touch you, heal you, He'll set you free. He'll set you free. God can heal. God can heal. Oh, He can. He can mend. He can mend your brokenness. He has a miracle. He has a miracle to fit your need. Once you trust Him, you will receive. So by the time, listen, that you leave this building, my prayer for everyone in here is that you'll have your healing. Once God works a miracle to fit your need, go tell the world, hey, what you have received, what you have received. God has healed. God has healed. He has delivered. Yes, He has made. He has made your brokenness. Gave me a miracle. To fit my need. Praise the Lord. 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 I have received. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. I have received. I have received. I've received my healing. Yes, I have. I have received. I have received. Praise the Lord. Amen.
All right, let's give another hand out for that Share for Life Impromptu Chorale. They do a good job as led by Sister Marietta Hamilton and others, some of whom name I don't even know. I know their voices. I've been blessed. All right. I promised you this morning when I did the introductions that I would tell you my testimony. My testimony is one that really goes back many years. I'm going to start, however, 12 years ago. 12 years ago, my father, the late pastor Sandy C. Robinson III, Sandy C. Robinson Jr., I'm the third, had a stroke. He was sitting down watching Hurricane Katrina on television and had to get up to go to the restroom. My mother was home with him, and he had a fall in the restroom. She didn't know that, but he took such a long time. My mother sent one of my siblings in to look, see if everything was okay. When they went in, they saw him on the ground. They picked him up, and I think it was my sister, who's also a medical doctor. So I think Dad had a stroke, was having a stroke. And so they got him to the hospital, and sure enough, after all the diagnoses came in, my dad had suffered a stroke, a pretty severe stroke. In fact, after that stroke, my dad never walked again. He never talked again. He certainly couldn't drive, and he could not feed himself ever again. 2 years later, he would pass away from the effects of that stroke. His stroke, I think, was caused primarily to the effects of high blood pressure. Now, there are a lot of things we know that bring on high blood pressure. It could be stress. It could be lack of rest, lack of proper rest, lack of sleep, and also improper nutrition. Let me just tell you something. My parents became Seventh-day Adventists in 1951, many years. So my dad had been an Adventist for well over half of a century. And when they came into this church, the Adventist church, they accepted pretty much all of the teachings of the church. When I say all of the teachings, I'm talking about the prophetic teachings as it pertains to last day events, the Sabbath teachings, of course, Christian education, and also what we call health reform. When it came to proper eating, my parents pretty much had it down. All of their children were raised vegetarians, all of them. We all didn't stick with it. We got old enough to make our own choices. We did. And salmon tastes pretty good to me. Was never really that crazy about fried chicken, and that doesn't really say anything about my cultural identity, but I just, it was all right, but it wasn't salmon. So over the years, they not only kept to their diet, but they also taught a lot of other people about health reform and the other things they believed in, including Christian education. My parents were instrumental in helping literally thousands of young people go to school, especially our Adventist colleges. They were also involved in what we call the publishing ministry, which was selling books. My dad was a colporteur, and he became a colporteur leader. He eventually worked for the Review and Herald over the marketing division for North America, and he retired from that. So when they retired, they moved to Huntsville, Alabama, a very lovely place, small town, not a whole lot of stress when it comes to crime and traffic and all of that. But when I observed my dad's life and the hard work that he did and how he did his work, I noticed one thing, that my dad didn't really like to sleep. He didn't like to rest. So I attribute, and this is just a layman's son and a son's observation of his dad, I think my dad suffered from lack of rest, proper rest, more than anything. Right? He was pretty cool, so I wouldn't say he was really that stressed. If he was, he didn't really show it. This would be another symptom of stress. People know how to internalize things. I tend to be that way. I internalize. So when I saw what it put him through and the fact that it took away from my mother her business, she had a business that she ran even in her 80s, and she still runs it today. She couldn't do that anymore because she became the primary caregiver for my father. If you have a stroke in your family, it's going to be a very expensive disease, let me tell you that. Because whoever is working probably is going to have to quit their jobs and take care of you if it's a spousal situation. Right? If there's some kids around, that might be of help, but nobody's going to be taking as good a care of your spouse as you are. So I saw them go through that, and I declared openly, that's never going to happen to another Robinson. That was my declaration. That's not going to happen to another Robinson. You have to go through what I saw my parents struggling through, this stroke thing, right? Now, it would probably be maybe 3 or 4 years later that my wife became concerned about her blood pressure, and she would check it regularly, and it would often, spike. One night she was checking her blood pressure, and she said, I heard her declare over there, we're in the bedroom together, she goes, this can't be right. My blood pressure can't be that high. This thing must be broken. She's talking about the thermometer, the blood pressure monitor she was using. I said, give me that thing. I'm going to check it myself. So I put it on me now. As far as I knew, I didn't have any blood pressure problems. I put the monitor on me, and mine was higher than hers. I really became concerned. I said, yep, it's broken. What was broken was me. What do they call the silent killer? High blood pressure, for good reason. You can have it and not know you have it without any symptoms, no pain, no headaches. Often that is the case. So they call it the silent killer. This can't be right. Well, I became so concerned and scared at the same time that I immediately got on the internet, how to reduce high blood pressure naturally. There's 2 things I wasn't going to let happen. One, I was not going to get on medication that they would keep me on for the rest of my life, and I was not going to go down to the emergency room and let them admit me into the hospital, right? Don't like doctors, when I say doctors, being treated by doctors, I should say. And I don't like being in a hospital. So I said, wow, the very stuff I'm trying to avoid, here it is. Looks like it's starting to creep into this generation. So I started doing a lot of research about how to keep your blood pressure down naturally. And came across a lot of very helpful information that even to this day, some of it I subscribe to. It would be a while, however, before my blood pressure got to the point where I would even consider going to the doctor, which I did. And the doctors gave me some information, but they wanted to put me on medication as well, because that's what they're trained to do. You can't blame a doctor for doing what he's trained to do. And I really admire doctors who do independent research, who, despite what they were taught in medical school and in their clinical training, they actually go out and say, well, let me learn something else about that. So we're going to talk a little more about that as I progress. So fast forward to October of 2017. October 2017. I was visiting a church in the Houston area, and we're standing up singing one of the hymns for the morning. And I look over at the pew in front of me, and there's a flyer. The flyer says, how to reverse diabetes naturally. And that got my attention because I knew I had some sugar problems. I love sweets. I still love sweets. I don't crave them like I used to. We're going to talk about that. But I knew I had a problem, and I had taken my sugar, and I started to experience symptoms of diabetes. I said, oh, no, I can't let this happen. I couldn't see myself with any limbs missing being pushed around in a wheelchair. And being pushed out in a wheelchair by my wife, who has a good job and does not need to be quitting that job to take care of me. Like one of my friends said, he said, no, I couldn't be in that position either because my wife wouldn't take me anywhere I would want to go. I said, that's a good point, man. We need to think about that. You need to think about that. Well, here I am in October 2017. And this thing gets my attention. I said, well, you know what? I'm going to go into this seminar and see what they're talking about because I could always learn something new. I knew a lot because I had been doing research now for a few years on my medical conditions or perceived conditions and what I need to do about it to reverse it naturally without taking medication. I was really bent on not taking medication. So I went to the seminar. It was 4 nights in a row. I went. They kept emphasizing a plant-based diet. Plant-based diet, okay. I grew up vegetarian. Remember now, my parents had raised all their kids to be vegetarians, so I knew what plant-based was, and we've always had a garden. My dad bought some land out in the country, built a house. We had our first garden. Well, maybe not even the first garden. I think we had our first garden actually in the project. We lived in the projects. Parents got to a place they could build their own home. They did that. Had a little more land and planted a decent-sized garden and taught us how to plant and raise our own food, which was very beneficial. No pesticides, everything natural. And my mom was a great cook, so she knew how to prepare vegetables, and we ate a lot of fruits. And so for 3 months, from October 2017, after I went to that seminar, to December, I was on a plant-based diet. And I noticed something. My weight started to drop off. I said, okay, this ain't all that bad. I noticed something else, that the urges to go to the restroom, to urinate, were not as frequent. I said, oh, this stuff works, for real, just like they said it would. This is great. 1 week before Christmas of 2017, I wake up one Sabbath morning, and I pull out my music keyboard. I love to practice hymns, so I was going to play a few hymns before I went to Sabbath school in church. Pulled out the keyboard, and I'm trying to play the keyboard, and the music sounds terrible. I said, wait a minute, this is not what I'm trying to play. Come to find out, my left hand was not placing properly. It was not hitting the keys that I wanted it to hit. I said, oh, this is crazy. What's going on? So I went halfway in, partly into denial, like, okay, I know what could be happening in terms of you heard of the term mini stroke? People say, oh. So I said to myself, well, maybe I'm having a mini stroke, but nah. So I just got up, left the keyboard, got dressed, went to church. Saturday night, I come home. I'm an attorney by training, so sometimes I take my work home with me in terms of doing work after hours. And so I'm doing that, and I'm working on my laptop computer. So I'm sitting down trying to type something on my computer, and I look at the computer screen, and it's nothing that I'd intended to type. I said, whoa, this is junk. What is that stuff? I was a little more frustrated because now, this is interfering with my livelihood. I'm trying to finish this project for the night, and my hands are not cooperating. My left side, my left hand. Right? So I finished typing the document with one finger on my right hand. Got that project out of the way. Sunday morning comes, go through all day Sunday, no problems. Monday morning, I have a client's meeting on the south side of town. I live near Spring, and my client is in Pearland, so that's driving completely through Houston to get to my client. Very important meeting. My client was going to pay me some money. Very important meeting in a lawyer's life, right? We're getting paid, especially when you work for yourself. So we were going to make that meeting. We were going to miss that meeting regardless, but I'm getting dressed to go to this meeting, and I'm having problems buttoning my shirt. A simple task. You know how many shirts I put on in 63 years? A bunch of shirts. But I could not button the shirt because my left hand was not cooperating. Somehow I managed to get things buttoned using mostly my right hand. But I was determined to make that meeting. So I got in my car and I drove all the way through downtown, I-45 going south, whatever traffic at that time of the morning, which I think was about 10:30. And made it okay to my client's meeting, which was at a bank. But on the way there, I get a call from my wife, as she often does, touches base with me in the morning. And we're chatting, and the Holy Spirit said to me, you better let your wife know what's going on. Because I'm thinking, if something happens to me and I'm driving this car, and I am having a mini stroke, and I lose control of the vehicle and kill myself or hurt somebody else, my wife's she's been married to a lawyer now for 30-some years. She's going to be trying to sue everybody in town, right? Saying, oh, it was their fault, this fault. So I said, you better tell her what's going on. So I said, okay, Marjorie, guess what happened to me? And I spelled out to her what happened to me Sabbath morning, Saturday night, and now Monday morning. And she listened to me very patiently. And when I was done, she said, this is why you have to marry wise, good wives, fellas. She said to me, Sandy, it sounds like to me, you need to go to the hospital right away. Now, she's telling me what I've been trying to deny for the past couple days. I said, are you serious? She said, absolutely. I said, something to think about. I wasn't going to commit because I knew if I committed, she wasn't going to let me forget. She's just that kind of wife, and that's a good wife. So she said, yeah, I think you should. Okay, we'll give that some thought. And so I hurriedly ended the conversation, and guess where I go? To meet my client. We're collecting money. We're going to make that meeting. So we met at the bank. When I get to the bank, it's raining. A nice little healthy rain. And I went inside the bank. My client was already there withdrawing money to give to me. And on our way out of the bank, I have my file folder in my left hand with some very important papers, obviously. As I'm coming out the door, my hand gives way and my papers go all over the wet pavement. First of all, I'm embarrassed that this happened. There are people that are coming out behind me, and there are people that are trying to get in, and they're all having to step over my papers. And I'm trying to get everything up, first of all, before it gets too wet and I can't read it anymore. Managed to do that, but I'm embarrassed now. My client's watching all this. And I'm saying, okay, this looks more serious than I had anticipated, and I really need to go to the doctor. As soon as I leave this bank, I'm going straight to Pearland Memorial Hermann Hospital, which was about 2 miles away from where I was. Sure enough, we get the transaction done. I get in my vehicle. Now, mind you, I'm still doing all the driving. I haven't called an ambulance. I drive to the hospital, and I check myself into the emergency room. So they asked me on the sign-in sheet, okay, what's the problem? You know, why are you here? And I thought they would read that. Because if I worked in a hospital emergency room and somebody wrote what I wrote, I'd say, get this joker in right now. You know, that didn't happen. I wrote in, well, having problems with my left side, you know, could be a stroke or, you know, it just looks bad. I don't think anybody ever read that. Eventually, they would call me in. Well, Mr. Robbins come in. You know, I come in. They say, okay, we're gonna take some blood from you. We're gonna do this little test. We're gonna do a what was it, EKG or something. They did those two things. I would sit in that emergency room for 12 hours before I actually saw a physician. 12 hours. Think about that. Now, if I'm really having a stroke, you wait 12 hours to see me? First of all, let me fault myself for getting there too late. But secondly, let me fault myself for having driven myself, because if I was really having one and I'm driving, I'm risking a lot of lives, including my own. Should not have done that. So that's not good advice, folks. If you think you're having a stroke, call somebody to help you, all right? They will help you? Will they help you, though? They will help you? Okay. Well, that's what I said. Call somebody that will help you. 911. 3 easy numbers. So 12 hours later, I get called in by a physician in one of the treatment rooms. Mr. Robinson, he said, yes, sir, hello. He said, I have looked at your reports from the tests that we've done here. He said, and this really made my heart jump for joy. He said, everything looks fine. And I'm going, yes, I was right. I was right. He said, we don't see a problem. Everything checks out normal. And then he let me down. He said, but, he said, we need you to see a neurologist. He said, we don't have one on staff here. So we need you to go to one of our other hospitals. They have a neurologist on staff. They're probably going to give you a CT scan and an MRI sometime tomorrow. I said, okay. So at 1 o'clock in the morning, now I'm in an ambulance. I'm being transported to Memorial Southwest. I get there, short check-in procedure. They lead me straight to my room. I get there, doctor comes in to see me. Okay, Mr. Robinson, we're going to just check your vitals tonight, but tomorrow you're going to have an MRI and you're going to have a CT scan. I said, okay. Sure enough, go to sleep. Wake up in the morning, they send hospital personnel down to roll me into the MRI. Went there, first time I've ever had an MRI in my life. Strange room, a lot of magnetism in there. In fact, they tell you, I heard somebody say don't wear a belt in there because it'll suck you in or something, I don't know. I didn't take any chances, my belt was already off. So they take the MRI, roll me back to my room. A couple hours later, they come and roll me into the CT scan room. Go there, take the CT scan. I don't hear anything for the rest of that day, nothing eventful. But in the morning, a doctor I had never seen previously comes in, and he says to me, Mr. Robinson, yes, sir. You have had the stroke. I said, had the stroke? Yes, the stroke. I said, you mean a mini stroke, sir? He said, no, I'm not calling this a mini stroke. I'm calling this a stroke. I said, okay. He was from the Middle East. My accents are sometimes not that good. Most of the time, they're really good. Like I could do a Jamaican, never mind. My wife just warned me. So he said, "You ever had this stroke?" I said, "Man, really? Mini stroke? Like TIA? You know, these are terms I'd heard thrown around, so I'm trying to use them like I know what they mean." He said, "Oh, you had this stroke." He said these words, which were haunting to me. He said, "People that have what you've had, they don't walk again, they don't talk again, and they can't feed themselves anymore." Remember those words I told you about earlier? That was my dad's diagnosis. No, that was his reality. It's not a diagnosis, that was his reality. And I said, "That's never going to happen to Robinson again." He said, "But you are lucky. I'm blessed." He said, "It was his stroke." He said, "I can show you where it was." And he took out his little laptop. They put the disc in from the MRI, and they showed me the exact spot where my stroke took place, which was in my rear right occipital region of my brain. And he said, "And you've had 2 strokes." I said, "What?" I said, "Well, when was the other one?" "We don't know. We can't tell." Oh, man. Okay. So over the course of the next couple of days, they prescribed some medication. So they started giving me medication for diabetes. He said, "Your stroke was caused by diabetes and high blood pressure. And your cholesterol was on the high side also." So right away in the hospital, while I'm still there, and I would be there for a total of 2.5 days, they started prescribing medication that I had never taken in my life. I'd never been on diabetes medication, never been on high blood pressure medication, never been on medication for cholesterol, high cholesterol either. But they started giving me that while I was still in the hospital. So as I'm checking out, they gave me this long list of medications that, "Okay, well, we need you to go and start these medications right away when you get home." One of them was insulin, which I would have to stick myself in the stomach, inject myself with insulin every day. I told my doctor, I said, "That's not going to happen. I'm not injecting myself with insulin in the stomach on a daily basis. That is not going to happen, doctor, so you can take that one off the list." She argued with me for a while, but guess who wins arguments? The lawyer. So I've never taken insulin in my life. Anyway, I took the other stuff because I figured, they said, "Well, we're just trying to keep you from having another stroke." I said, "Okay." But at this point, I'm in deep prayer mode. All that they can't do or refuse to do or fail to do, I want my God to take care of. I want to exercise good judgment. Remember we talked about judgment today? Reason and judgment, all that. I want to do that. But prayer is my number one weapon. So I started praying. By that time, my wife was on her way from California. That's a good wife. She heard about my stroke. I did call her until I had the stroke, I'm sure she was not too happy to hear that. I told him to go to the hospital. I could hear her on the airplane now. "Yeah, if he just gone when I told him to go." So my wife comes. Okay, well, let me save that for the back part of the story. But over the next 2.5 days, they sort of stabilized me, keep my blood pressure down by giving me blood pressure medication. They're checking my sugar daily. And I got a little impatient because I'm saying, well, I don't see anybody that's really making any monumental changes in my situation. And there was one more thing they wanted to do, give me diabetes education. I said, "Well, where's the person that's supposed to do that?" "Well, they're on the way, they're busy." I said, "Well, I don't have time to wait. I got work to do, and you guys are holding me up." And I checked myself out of the hospital against my doctor's wishes. But sometimes, you just got to follow another voice. And I called myself doing that. Well, guess who drove themselves home? Me. But on the way home, my wife had reached the airport. And so guess who picked her up? I did. Went straight by there. She wasn't as mad as I thought she would be. One, for picking her up with a stroke head, with a stroked out brain. So we went home, and she had called a friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours, who's a nutritionist. And she said, "Donna, my husband had a stroke. Is there any diet that, perhaps you would recommend so that he can sort of recover better?" So Donna said, "You're in Houston, Texas, right?" She said, "Yeah." She said, "Well, there's a black doctor in Houston whose name is Baxter Montgomery. He runs the Montgomery Heart and Wellness Center. You ought to get in touch with him because everybody we send to this guy, he helps them to change their health through nutrition, just using nutrition." make an appointment with him, see if you can get in, and he'll give you some very helpful instructions about your husband's condition and how to overcome. My wife made the appointment, and we got in within a week of the time that I was discharged from the hospital, which I thought was phenomenally fast for a specialist like a cardiologist. This guy's a board-certified cardiologist. So we got in to see him on December 27th. It's now 2 days after Christmas. And we go in. One of the questions he asked me, well, Mr. Robinson, in his doctor way, what kind of diet did you have before you had your stroke? And I had a sense of pride at that moment. Y'all know where I'm going? I said, well, sir, as an Adventist, I've been a vegetarian most of my life. He shook his head. He said, no. He said, vegetarians can eat almost anything. So they eat eggs, they eat cheese, they drink milk, they eat ice cream. He said, no. What? That's the kind of diet you had? He said, I'll tell you what. He said, I'm going to put you on a raw vegan diet. Listen to me, folks. This is what helped to save my life. I'm going to put you on a raw vegan diet for 28 days. 28 days? He said, it's going to detox your body. This is a detox period. It's going to detox your body, make some phenomenal changes, and you'll get better. Okay. I'm listening to him, but I'm thinking in my mind, he thinks I'm crazy enough to just eat raw food. Not just raw food, but just vegetables and fruit raw. What about the macaroni and cheese, Doc? I didn't ask him that because I knew where that would go. So he said, yep, 28 days. Now, if it were just me in that patient room, I probably could have pulled the wool over the doctor's eyes. Maybe not. Maybe he was smarter than I give him credit for, but I would have not done the diet. But guess who was there? Remember, she's already in Houston, so there's no getting out of anything. She's going to watch me like a hawk. So she was right there, and she's going, okay. I said, it's like, no, don't commit to this. She committed us to it. The good thing about that is that she was very encouraging and very helpful. Not only did she go on the diet with me, but for 3 weeks that she was there, she did all the food preparation. Because if I was there by myself, I would not have done one thing toward a raw diet except maybe eat a mango, my favorite fruit. But guess what? Mangoes was on the off list. That was on the bad list because of the sugar content. I couldn't eat mangoes. So I'm really hot now, So my wife went on the internet, got some recipes. The doctor provided some recipes. This doctor is so bad, I got to brag on him for this. He is so bad, he has a vegan restaurant in his clinic, in his medical clinic. He tells his patient, look, if you don't feel like doing the cooking, we got a meal plan for you. You can come 3 times a week and pick up your food. 3 meals a day. Come 3 times, or pick it up on Friday. I forgot how it was, but he had it set up. He's still here and still saving people's lives. He said, now, Mr. Robinson, I'm going to put you on this raw vegan diet. It's going to detox your body. It's going to do this and that. He said, but 1 week after you start this diet, somebody's going to get saved right here, health-wise. This ain't your total salvation, but health-wise. He said, 1 week after you start your diet, I want you to come back and see me. 1 week after you start. So mark the day you start, count a week, make an appointment, come see me. So we did that. We did it for 1 week, went back to see the doc on the appointed day. While I was at home, he said, now you check your blood sugar levels daily. You check your blood pressure twice a day, morning and evening. He said, you keep a careful record of that. And you bring it with you when you come a week later. I said, okay. And I was dutiful. We did that every single day. Checked the blood sugar in the morning. I did my blood pressure morning and evening. Kept it in a record, in a book that my wife had bought me to do it in. And we take it back to Dr. Montgomery. He looks at my blood sugar readings that I had kept record of, and he says, Mr. Robinson, he said, your blood sugar is stabilized. He said, you're doing fine. I'm going to take you off your diabetes medication. How many weeks? Just 1 week after I started. 1 week. I said, now, Mr. Robinson, that's good, but I want you to come see me in another week. So this is 2 weeks after I started seeing him. Come and see me in another week. Okay. Came back week 2. He looks at the record I had kept of my blood pressure readings. Mr. Robinson, your blood pressure is stabilized. I'm going to take you off the blood pressure medication. Right? 2 weeks time? Yep. You don't have to take that anymore. Most of these other doctors out there that putting you on this stuff, they tell you you're going to be on this for the rest of your life. 2 weeks of my life, I was on high blood pressure medication. 1 week, I was on diabetes medication. I'm off both of those. I had an appointment with my neurologist. They're the ones who see you after you have a stroke, you know. 2 weeks after that, she looks at my blood work report, and she says, Mr. Robinson, your cholesterol is fine. You don't need to be on cholesterol medication. I'm taking you off that. 4 weeks, within that 28 days, I'm off 3 major medications: the cholesterol, the high blood pressure, and the diabetes medication. After 4 weeks. In the words of the doctor himself, he said, you know, I used to have high cholesterol years ago, and I didn't want to take medicine. This is the doctor telling me this, so I felt like I was in good company. He didn't want to take medication. What do you think I want to take it for, right? And he's a doctor. This is what he's trained to do. He said, so I started researching some natural ways, and plant-based kept on coming up. He said, so I decided to try it. He said, I did, and I got better. And he says, so since I got better using it, I started recommending it to my patients. And my patients started getting well. He said, this thing was working like in biblical, these are his words. He said, this thing was miraculous, like in biblical proportions. Those were his words. He said, just like in the Bible, it was like people were getting up, throwing their medications out because they didn't need it anymore. He said, so I said, this must work. So I adopted my practice to do this. And that's why I have the vegan restaurant. That's why I do what I do. And that's why I give the presentations. He was invited to be here today, by the way, and apparently he couldn't make it. But we do hope to have a seminar, maybe with several churches at one time, where he can be one of our main presenters. You have a great presenter today, so I want you to listen to Dr. Lindo very well. Okay, she knows a lot of this stuff, right? And Sister Laverne Reed also is one of our presenters. She's a medical missionary. We'll talk about her later. So I just want y'all folk to understand that after it's been now 8 months since I had my stroke, no debilitations. I walk every day. I drive every day. I eat every day. I'm just more careful about what I eat. Now, I try to do things in moderation when I do go over the line sometimes, like y'all had some macaroni and cheese in there today. I didn't want to hurt anybody's feeling. Those people work hard to put that macaroni and cheese together. Why insult them? You don't just go around insulting people like that. You never get invited back again. So I had a little bit, okay? All right. But I noticed y'all didn't have no chocolate cake. What happened, cooks? Who's the baker around here? No, just kidding. So God is so good, though. He designed this. Where do you think this diet comes from? Anybody ever read the book of Genesis? You know what Genesis is, right? First book of the Bible. He tells you what you need to have for your sustenance. He tells us that. He made the body. He designed the upkeep, right? What we have to do is follow it. I used to be kind of upset. I don't want to say upset with God. I'm a little brighter than that. I'm a little more intelligent than to get upset with God. Where can that get you, right? But I was a little disappointed that, and I used to go, why don't we see miracles today? Like they had in the Bible days when Jesus touched people and they got up and they walked or they could see, you know. But guess what? He has given us the miracle. We haven't used the key to unlock the miracle storeroom. He gave us the key. He said, okay, here's your key. Here's the diet. Now you do this. And you obey and follow my commandments and statutes. None of these diseases will fall upon you. But what do? We do everything they do. And we don't take the stuff he's given us to sustain our body. Now, you go out and you buy yourself a new, not even a Honda, a Hyundai. I hope I'm not insulting anybody here. But they give you an instruction book. Make sure you do your oil changes every so many miles. You do that. But if God says do this for your body, you won't do that. Your body, your God, your creator, your maintenance plan, and we don't do that. And we get upset when we get sick and call for the elders, which is okay. I mean, if you get to that point, you got to do that. The Bible recommends it. But we have to be more diligent. We have to be more committed to following God's plan for our lives. My testimony is this. Oh, and by the way, this program that you're experiencing today is part of the testimony, because I'm sitting on the edge of my bed one morning, literally. I said, God, you know, sometimes you got to have a talk with God. You let me have that stroke. You let me have that stroke, and it didn't kill me. It didn't debilitate me. Why? Why did you let me go through that? And the answer was so clear. It's so you can tell other people. I'm here today telling other people. I've told hundreds of people since that incident happened, because God told me that's what I was supposed to be doing. And I'm crazy enough to think that sometime in heaven, before I had the stroke, there was a meeting. Oh, Lord. I get tearful at this part because I think it really happened. There was a meeting in heaven, and my name came up. And somebody said, well, Lord, what are we going to do with the joker? I said, well, let's don't kill him. Let's don't maim him. But we got to let him go through something for two reasons. One, he needs to know that my way is right, is the right way. Secondly, we know that if we let him live and be able to talk again, he'll tell some people. And they'll get better. They'll get well. I think that's what happened one day in heaven. So I'm more than happy to be here today, sharing with you. Even though I'm a little embarrassed of the tears, I'm thankful for the experience. Every time I tell this, I cry. Every time. I can't stop it. But God is good. I'm just so happy. So happy He let me go through the experience without what could have happened. And so now here I am. And I want to tell many, many more people. So when we ask you, we don't charge you for this information. Did y'all know that? Nobody paid for a ticket at the door, right? Did they? Because you need a refund if you did. All right. But we do ask for donations because we know that there are many more people that we have to reach, some of which are not in Houston. So we have to drive to those locations. And there's some churches that are smaller than this church that we need to share with, in communities where people, they don't know half of what we know as Adventist Christians who've adopted health reform as a whole. So we need to let them know, okay? So I'm more than happy to share with you today, and we got some very, very, very good presentations right behind me. But before I give the microphone, thank you so much, sister. Where's the whole box? I need the whole box. Before I turn it over to my other speakers, I'm going to ask Brother Linnell Warner, one of my favorite saxophonists in all of Houston or anywhere, to come up. He's part of our Share for Life team, Share for Life band, and a very talented individual. He's going to play a number for you at this time. Linnell, come and bless us.
Happy Sabbath. The song I'm about to play is Brother Robinson always requests it every time we play or every time we have a little outing. And I guess like for me this week is really reaching to me because I work with early childhood education, and this week I got in trouble about 5 times out of the 5 days. So like that was weighing on my heart, so they like had me down for the week. And then today I tried to play this same song earlier at another church, and like my saxophone gave out on me. But in the words of this song, it goes, God and God alone reveals the truths we call are unknown. And though the best and worst of man, it can't change the master's plan because it's God's and God's alone. And just as that song speaks to Brother Robinson's testimony, it's speaking to me in my life because I know like whatever I'm going through, whatever the outcome is, even when I give my best, it may not come out as it is, as that, but I know that the end result is God's and God's alone.
Amen. I think what's going to start happening in the future is that I'm going to start having to put my testimony in his song at the end of the program. But y'all won't have to see me use napkins. Okay, so our first speaker for this afternoon is a young lady who's really young enough to be my daughter. She actually grew up with in part with my daughters, Laverne Reed, a devoted mother, a medical missionary, and loves helping people with their nutrition. Laverne, would you come forward and bless us at this time, please? And she's training her sons. The last time we did this, which was in San Antonio, her sons were helping her out with this presentation. So you may see them in action this afternoon, too. I think that's a good thing to do. Train your kids about proper nutrition. Get them started right.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Let's begin with a quick prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to come together and open up your word and learn about our bodies and your master plan for us. And as we spend some time together, pray that your Holy Spirit will dwell with us and give us understanding. In Christ's name I pray, amen. Okay, so tonight's presentation is called Your Body is a Temple. And it's going to be interactive, so I'm going to ask you some questions, and I hope that you answer them back. And if you have any questions, you can ask. But does everybody have their Bible, or does anybody have a Bible in front of them? Okay, so we're just going to look at a couple verses. The first one is 1 Corinthians 6:19. And if I could get a volunteer to read it, that would be great. Okay, go right ahead. Thank you. I love how you read that nice and strong. So our body is the temple or the sanctuary of God. And I am going to just read a follow-up verse, Exodus 25, verse 8, where God said to Moses, "And let them make me a sanctuary that I may dwell among them." So the purpose that God created the sanctuary, the tabernacle on earth with Moses, was so that he could dwell there, and he dwelt in the most holy place. And the New Testament is telling us that we are the sanctuary of God now, right? That temple is not there any longer. So he would like to dwell with us and in us. So we need to treat our bodies with as much reverence and care as the sanctuary was treated when God created it here on earth. And as much reverence and care is taken with the sanctuary in heaven. Okay, so it's a holy vessel. And our body was designed very intricate. Can anybody in 30 seconds or less describe the way that the earthly sanctuary was created or designed? Moses' sanctuary? The different compartments or anything about it?
The sanctuary was made with 3 parts: the outer court, the holy place, and the most holy place. The most holy place is where God the Father dwells, and the holy place is where things like the table of showbread, the candlesticks, and the altar of incense are. And the outer court is where they would kill the lambs and sacrifice them and wash their hands in the laver.
Thank you. Okay, and all of those things that he described were not arbitrarily put together. They were designed and planned, and they needed special equipment and a certain type of gold and a certain type of incense that was combined just so. And so I just would like you all to think of your body as a tabernacle. So we're going to just start with the basics. I don't think you all can read that, so I'll just read it out loud, and let's see if I can see it. Now, cells are the building blocks of our system. So there's a picture of a little cell there. The same types of cells form tissue, which makes the organs, which are classified into systems that make up the body as a whole. So we have cells, like cells make up tissue, like tissue makes the organs, and then the organs make the systems, and the systems comprise, our body is comprised of several different systems, and some of them overlap. For our bodies to function properly, each system, the skeletal system, muscular, digestive system, must be working correctly. So if one system is not functioning correctly or it's out of whack, it's going to throw the entire body off, because each system, one system will overcompensate for the other. So if your digestive system is not functioning properly, the other organs in your body are going to try to overcompensate, because your body wants to maintain homeostasis. So everything is going to be affected, even if one thing is out of whack in your body. So that's why you might have multiple symptoms for one disease or one illness. Okay. So all of life's processes function on the cellular level. So when you think of your body, don't think of your body as a whole. Think of your body as cells, and all those cells work together. So every single cell in your body has 5 needs. And so if you are getting those 5 basic needs met, then you should avoid sickness and illness. So the 5 needs of your cells are oxygen. Let's read it together. Oxygen, waste elimination, water, poisons to be kept out, and nutrition. So if you can focus on those things for each cell in your body, then you should have wellness. So we're going to talk about the nutritional needs of your cells, because we know what water is, we know what oxygen is, but let's talk about the nutritional needs of each cell. Okay, so your cells need nutrition. What is food? You get your nutrition from your food, right? Okay. Food supplies the necessary nutrients to furnish heat and to aid the cells in cell function without causing harm or injury. So that's the definition of food. It provides energy and it helps your cells function. Now, your cells do different jobs, and to do their jobs, they need the energy to do that. So food is digested. The food you eat is digested. It's stored in your cell fluid. And if something that you eat damages or impairs your body or cells in any form, it is not fit for food. So if you're eating something and it doesn't give you energy or give your cells energy, or if it harms you, then it is not fit for food. Because food does the opposite. It gives you energy, and it gives, and it helps your cells function. So how does food, like an apple or those food pictures that we see there, turn into food for your cell? So does anybody know how the food goes from an apple into cell nutrition? Simplified terms. Y'all don't have to say anything complicated. Just how does it get from your mouth into your cells? Digestive system. Break it down as you chew it, and your saliva breaks it down into small particles. Are you going to say something? Same thing. Okay. Pasha said the bloodstream. Okay, let's see what the next slide says. For the life of the flesh is in the blood. Anything which is taken into the stomach and converted into blood becomes part of the being. The blood nourishes the body. The health of the body depends upon the healthful circulation of the blood. So your food goes into your cells through your bloodstream. So that's just the simplified version. My brother said you chew it up, it becomes small particles, your digestive system liquefies it, and then it's absorbed into your bloodstream through your organs. So does everybody know all of that so far? This is nothing new, right? Okay, so we'll go to the next slide. So your life depends on good blood. So your purpose of eating is to make good blood. Because if your blood is good, then your cells are good, and then you're healthy. So your blood just does several different things. Your blood brings nutrients and water to your cells. And I'm just going to read the slide, so maybe I can have someone else volunteer to read it for me. Would you like to read?
Your blood brings nutrients and water to your cells. Your blood transports needed oxygen to your cells. Your blood carries away carbon dioxide to be eliminated. Your blood carries waste products to the necessary channels of eliminations.
Okay, so our blood basically does all the work for us that our cells need. So you need oxygen. What's the waste product of oxygen? Carbon dioxide. So that carbon dioxide needs to be eliminated somehow. We breathe it out, and it's carried through our blood to our lungs, and then we exhale it. So it helps eliminate the waste of carbon dioxide. And then all the other waste products of our organs is eliminated through the bloodstream as well. So it will be carried to our kidneys or to our liver, to our colon to be eliminated. So if you do not eliminate the waste properly, or if your blood is not functioning properly, you will be sick. You can have a common cold, from common cold to cancer, just from what's in your blood. Allergies, diabetes, all of that can just be from what's in your blood, or what you're eating, or what you're not properly eliminating through your bloodstream, or not getting enough oxygen into your bloodstream. So we know that we'll need fresh air to get enough oxygen. So all of those factors matter. You can also experience fatigue, which related is irritability. You might have behavior problems in children, and it might manifest. Their behavior problems might be a manifestation of what they're actually eating or not eating. Forgetfulness, is anybody forgetful in here? Or you can forget small things. It could be simple cell functions like we need copper. So we need copper to help us with memory and different things like that. And you can get that from grapes, or you can get that from nuts. But if you're not eating those things, you might be a little forgetful. Fatigue, also organ fatigue. Something might give out, your liver might give out. And then of course, death, heart attack, or organ failure. Something just stops working completely. So all of those are a result from our cells not getting the proper nutrients that they need. Okay, and so we are going to talk very briefly about what can cause poor circulation. And so if you eat certain things together, it can cause poor circulation or bad blood. So we'll start at the very corner. What's the first one? And we're just going to go in a circle. Everything that is next to something else, if you eat it together, it can actually cause poor circulation. So the first one is, and the next one is, and I put it in a bottle because milk is actually for babies. Like cow's milk is for baby cows, and then human milk is for baby humans. So there are types of milk that we can drink that's not really milk. It's almond milk, rice milk, soy milk, things like that. But cow's milk should not be eaten with sugar. Does anybody know why cow's milk and sugar should not be eaten together? Right, when it comes together, it will cause alcohol. It basically ferments and it makes alcohol in your bloodstream. So some items that have milk and sugar together are some of our favorites, like ice cream or cereal. And imagine we give our children cereal in the morning, and then they have that hype in the morning, and then it dips down. And that's what's happening in your bloodstream when you eat, when you have milk and sugar together. So we have ice cream, cereal. Can you think of anything else that has milk and sugar together? Oatmeal, yep, if you put milk and sugar in your oatmeal. Cake, cake is a good one. Cheesecake, that's a good one. Yes, no, not that one. Yogurt. Yogurt's milk and sugar. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Now we have milk and the one right next to it. different proteins. So certain proteins combined together, they should not be combined because our body uses different enzymes to digest different things. So just like the incense in the sanctuary was different, there was frankincense, there were different components of it. When we digest, certain things are digested in certain parts of our body. So sugar begins digestion right in our mouth, right? The amylase, you feel it, it starts digestion. Protein begins digestion in your stomach. Fat begins in your small intestine, and that's why you need a gallbladder. And sometimes if you have your gallbladder removed, you have liver issues. And so you have problems digesting fat because you needed your gallbladder to do that. So if you're experiencing any health issues, one thing you can look at primarily is what you're combining. Because if you start eating something and it begins digestion in your stomach, and then you put something else in there that's different, that needs different enzymes, your body can stop digesting one item and start focusing on the other item. And the food that sits in your stomach, like let's say you leave an apple on your counter, an organic apple on your counter. After about 3 days or even less than that, what starts happening with that apple? It starts rotting, it starts going bad. Now, imagine that's in your stomach with all these different enzymes and hydrochloric acid and all of this, and it stays in there, and it's gonna rot and it's gonna ferment in your stomach. And that will circulate in your body. And it, as we talked about, it's going to go through your entire body. It's going to go to your blood, to your extremities, and illness occurs. So if you're especially already dealing with illness, you want to be mindful of what you're eating. And you can eat 1 or 2 things at a time and see how you feel. And then you can probably start to pinpoint what you need to eliminate or not eat together. So different proteins, if you eat meat, that would be like a cheeseburger, because that's cheese and the beef together. Or even if you're a vegetarian, so you have your omelet, your egg and cheese, or your egg and cheese biscuit or something like that. So milk and different proteins shouldn't be combined together. And I don't have the verse here, but can you guys think of something that maybe Jewish people do, or based off of a verse in the Bible similar to that? It just came to my mind where you're not supposed to see the calf in its mother's milk. And because of that, they don't eat certain proteins together either. So it's just things that we might not have ever paid attention to before, but as science studies it, then a lot of things are revealed. And a lot of this was actually in diets on councils and health and health foods and things like that. It's all in there, but it's also in the scientific encyclopedias now. You can read it. People are talking about food combining. So that's what this is. Food combining causes poor food combining causes poor circulation. So the next one is different proteins and starches. Some starches, I have potatoes on there, bread, but different proteins and starches. I have a picture of a steak and potatoes on purpose, because people eat steak and potatoes together. Especially at night, you come home, you have a big table laid out with your steak and your potatoes and maybe some green beans, maybe. What does steak have in it? What's the major component, or what are some components of steak that you can think of? Fat, protein, okay. Does it have any fiber? Okay, meat has no fiber. So it has nothing to propel it through your digestive system. And when you're eating it with a heavy starch like a potato, and nothing wrong with potato, but I'm using that as an example, as you're combining it in your stomach, it's going to stay in your stomach longer. When you come home late at night and you eat, the meat is already going to take 4, 5, 6, 7 hours to digest. Now you're going to sleep with that in your stomach, and we're looking at 12 hours or more moving through your digestive system combined with this starchy potato. So we're really talking about waking up with a headache, not jumping out of bed. Who jumps out of bed and lands on their feet? Okay, so this is talking about rolling out the bed and not wanting to get up out of bed, or you have a headache, or you just don't feel good. It's probably because of last night's dinner, still digesting in your stomach, and then fermenting, because it's not moving through at the pace it should move through, and there's too much stuff going on in there. Okay, the next one is fruit and starches. Fruit is a wonder food that should actually be eaten by itself. When you wake up in the morning, your first meal should be fruit on an empty stomach. and all the enzymes and the vitamins and the minerals from the fruit can just go right into your body and you can digest it. Enzymes to digest fruit and to digest starches and to digest vegetables are different. So even though vegetables are healthy for you, potatoes are healthy, fruit's healthy, they shouldn't be eaten together because they don't use the same enzymes to digest. So I wasn't here, so I can't say how the potluck was, but usually at our potlucks we have a nice fruit platter, and we should really eat that fruit first. It should not be our dessert. We should really have fruit on an empty stomach. And then fruit doesn't take so long to digest, maybe 30 minutes. Melon is even faster, so you should really eat your melon alone, not in a fruit salad. Melon, watermelon, cantaloupe, all that is its own food group, basically. Eat that alone, eat the other ones, and give it some time to assimilate into your body before you move on to your next meal. So don't just finish it and then eat the next thing. Just give it some time. So fruits and vegetables were the last things that should not be eaten together. There's a neutral vegetable. There are a few neutral vegetables, like your leafy green vegetables, like a salad, or maybe you make a smoothie, you put spinach in your smoothie. Those are okay. If you experience any gas or something like that, then maybe it's not okay for you. But in general, those are your neutral vegetables. So your leafy greens, celery, those fruits that are sometimes fruit, sometimes vegetable, like a tomato, avocado, a cucumber, those go back and forth. So those are okay. Zucchini usually has to be cooked, right? You eat it raw too? So I'm not sure about zucchini, so I can't say, but maybe, because it has the seeds inside of it. So squash is a starch, so you want to avoid the starchy vegetables. Yes, ma'am. I would recommend doing separate juices. So an apple is a neutral fruit. So if you're juicing vegetables, you can put an apple in there, you can put your cucumber in there, you can put your celery in there. Those are your neutral fruits, so you can use that. But you don't want to do broccoli and grapes or pineapple or something like that. You want to keep them pretty separate. I'm not too certain about juicing per se, so I don't want to steer you in the wrong direction. Okay, so that's wonderful. You definitely want to combine it with fiber. So if you're eating meat in general, you want to eat meat with a salad. So your protein you want to eat with a salad. Rice and beans are an excellent combination. And so just look at the ingredients of what your veggie meat is, or maybe it's something that you've made yourself. So like your grains and legume combinations, those are good combinations. Most of the food that you're eating is going to have it, most of the veggies that you have are going to have their amino acids in it. But sometimes we combine them and we call it a complete protein. What I found is those foods, when you combine it like rice and beans together, or your grains and your nuts or seeds or something like that, that's usually what our homemade veggie meat is. You tend to be fuller longer. It makes you feel more satisfied. So those are a good combination. Just if it's store-bought, you just want to read what's in the ingredient list. And sometimes the soy or the pea protein or whatever it is, sometimes it's very low down at the bottom, and there's a lot of chemicals that come first. So it's not even really a soy-based, I would say. Okay, so we'll go on to the next slide. All right, so this is very bright. Most important needs, and I'm going to read it very quickly as I get close. God has supplied us what we need in the most abundance. First of all, who believes that God loves you? And who knows when you look out that whatever you need, God will already provide it for you? Okay, so God has supplied us what we need in the most abundance, the most accessible, and the easiest to assimilate, like into our bodies. Those items that we need the highest quantity, he has provided because he loves us. So whatever we need the most of, he has given it to us. And then whatever we need the least of, he has given it to us in that order. So we have a circle here, we're gonna fill it out. It has numbers, it has percentage numbers, but those, you can disregard those. I couldn't make them disappear. I just want you to look at the proportion of how much we need everything of, okay? So what we need the most of to live, God has given us that, the most of and the easiest to get. So what do you think the very first thing that we need the most of is? Oxygen. So we can go to the next slide. So oxygen is the most important thing that we need, because if we don't have it for a few seconds to a few minutes, that's it for us, right? So oxygen's first. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. God breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. Genesis 1:1. From the very beginning, he gave us breath. Okay, what do you think is number 2? Water. This earth is 70% water. Our bodies are 70% water. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. If you knew the gift of God, he would have given you living waters. So water is the next most important thing that our cells need. Remember, we need oxygen, we need water. So we need to drink at least as many, whatever your weight is, imagine your weight in your mind, how much you weigh, divide that in half. That's about how many ounces of water you should drink every day. So that's what gives you a good estimate. Okay, what do you think number 3 is in abundance? Food. Not yet. What's number 3? Sunshine. Hey, what day was that? Day 4 he created the sun, or day 3? Then God said, let there be light, and there was light. He makes the sun to rise on the evil and the good. So everybody needs sunlight, and God did not hold that back from anybody. But you know, Revelation told us that the sun was going to scorch men. So it's getting hotter these days. It is hot. So, but we do need sunshine. And you know what? We don't just need God. You know what? God has, we even make cholesterol in our bodies. And God put the sun in the sky not only to give the world light, but it synthesizes the cholesterol in our bodies and makes the vitamin D that we need. So everything works together, and it was very well thought out and very well designed. So imagine what the new earth will be like. Imagine what the earth was like originally. Okay, what do you think is number 3? So we said food, so we're going to move on to food. And thinking about the days of creation, well, he already went to it. Next one is fruit. Oh, no, you can go back to that one before. Fruit was the next thing that he gave us. And God said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat. So that was the first meal that God gave Adam and Eve. Fruit is the meat that we should eat. So not only should that be our first meal of the day, but we should have more fruit throughout our day than anything else that we eat. That's my opinion now. Of course, if you are dealing with health issues where you have to watch your sugar, then you have to watch what fruit you're eating and all of that. But fruit is the meal that God gave us. What is the second meal that God gave us? When did God give Adam and Eve vegetables? It was not in Genesis 1:29. After sin. Why do you think he decided to give them vegetables? Some children would say punishment. It could be, you know, it was a curse. They had to work the fields, more energy. And you know what? God said, in the day you eat the fruit, you will begin to die, and sin kills you. But God gave us a remedy, right? He gave his blood as a remedy for sin. But when we get sick, because we are sin sick and because we develop high blood pressure, diabetes, vegetables are the foods that heal us. Remember, when we go to heaven, there's a tree of life that's for the healing of the nations. So let's go to the next slide. Vegetables are we've got herbs here. We've got onion, we've got garlic, cabbage. All of those things are healing foods. You can break down the cabbage and use it as a poultice. You don't even have to eat it. So God, in his mercy, gave us vegetables. And thou shalt eat the herb of the field, and you shall till the ground, because out of the ground you were made. And it says, till thou return unto the ground, for out of it thou wast taken. So all of that was in one verse, that we are going to eat the herbs that come out of the ground. What else comes out of the ground? God says we are made from the ground. Let's go to the next slide, please. Out of the ground comes all of the minerals and the elements that we need to live. You see the tree has roots. If something doesn't have roots, it's not getting the iron, it's not absorbing the magnesium, the copper, the zinc, everything that we need to live. So if you go to the store and you're eating a bag of potato chips, it's already dead, it's already fried, and you don't have any of these living minerals that you need. So because we are from the earth, we need the food that comes from the earth. We need living food or minerals that come from the earth. So all of that is provided in vegetables and in fruit and in everything else that God has given us that comes out of the ground, because that is what we are composed of. And every human being is the same way. It doesn't matter what race you are, what color you are. We all need what comes out the earth because we're all from the earth. Very good question. We need to eat food that is alive. We cannot just eat the iron out the ground. The plants absorb the iron out the ground, and we eat it from the plants. And when we eat meat, we're only eating secondhand minerals or secondhand protein, because the animals get their amino acids out of the ground too. So we need to eat it firsthand. We need to eat the live fruits and vegetables, organic preferably. And you want to eat your food within the first couple of days that you get them, the first 2 or 3 days, because after that, the minerals, everything starts to deplete. So you just want to eat live food. Okay, next on the list is nuts, seeds, grains, and legumes. These foods, even though God gave them to us, these foods are less readily accessible. Meaning, if you want to eat a nut, Adam and Eve had to crack it open on a rock or do something to get to it, right? So they have to be broken and or sprouted and cooked to unlock the nutrients. So unless you can eat it raw, it should be less on our list. Remember, God gave us things that are most abundant and most accessible. So these foods, even though they are foods that we should eat, the other foods, the fruits and vegetables, are the main, those should be the main bulk of our plates. And these are foods for survival. These are foods hunting and gathering, and you have to cook them, and it takes time. And then what is the very last thing on the list? Dessert. Okay, so the very last thing says 1%. This is flesh and man-made foods. So these are not foods that God put in the ground for us to eat. This is animals that are on top of the ground and things that we make ourselves. God gave them, when did God give them meat? After the flood. What happened to their lifespan after they ate meat? Shortened them, because imagine the sinfulness of the world. God just cut that short. So you shall take with you 7 of every clean animal. So there we know there's a distinction. I have given you all things, even as the green herb, but you shall not eat flesh with its life, that is, its blood. So we should not eat meat that has the blood in it. If we eat meat, which is at the very end, which means we just got off of the ark, right? And we've just gone through all of this devastation. There's nothing left, and then maybe there's some meat, a last resort. But we live in a country where that's not even a problem. We have food banks all over, so that's not even a problem. These foods should not be on our diet. But let's say you do eat meat still. We can go to the next slide. This is, this didn't save correctly. This is the meat that most of us are usually eating. All of that meat has the blood in it. That's why it tastes so good. So the Bible says, let's go back to the other side. Let's go to Genesis 9, verse 4. And this is where I'll close. Genesis 9, verse 4. But flesh with the life thereof, which is the blood thereof, shall ye not eat. There is no food that we can buy, no meat that you can buy in the grocery store that does not have the blood in it. Because if it doesn't have the blood in it, then it doesn't taste good anymore. Now, I think there's halal meat. And correct me if I'm wrong, do they not pray over the halal meat? they pray over the halal meat, right? You know, we shouldn't eat food that's offered to idols either. So the Bible tells us that. So don't forget that. And I'll just leave that out there. There's kosher meat, right? But does the kosher meat have the blood drained? And the rabbi prays over it. Okay. Well, keep that in mind. And do we have any questions? Yeah, because after a few days, your food starts to wilt, and then it goes bad and starts molding. And bad foods like fruit that's going bad, those food also have contaminants and it can make you sick. The reason I say organic food versus conventional food is conventional food, a lot of times they have preservatives in it. So you might have an apple on your table for a month and it looks pristine, but in nature, it would go, once it falls off the tree, it starts going bad after a few days. So that's why I would recommend organic if you can get organic. There is something called the Dirty Dozens list, and it says which foods have more pesticides versus the ones that don't. Things that have like thick skin are more likely that you don't have to get organic, like the Dirty Dozens and the Clean 15. So like, I guess certain melons that have thick skins, they don't necessarily have to put the pesticides on. Certain foods, bugs are not even naturally attracted to them, so they don't have to put pesticides on them. Wash it with vinegar, or soak it. So the best thing that we should eat are fresh foods. Those certain foods, why they were even invented, why they were created was like to feed the masses or to ship overseas to people that didn't have it. So that's not necessarily an issue that we're dealing with. But maybe you're out in the woods and you're hiking and you need to bring your canned food with you. So those are like your emergency foods that you say. But it shouldn't be a staple in your diet. Yeah. So the canned foods. A little bit of mushrooms. If you want to have a little. Mushrooms don't have roots, so don't forget that. But mushrooms have other minerals, I guess you could say. B12 vitamin, yeah. It said B12 vitamin B. You can cook them. Oh, but you mean out of the can? Well, most of the things they put in the can, there's a lot of fresh things that they put in the can. Sometimes they heat them to a high heat before they even put them in the can. So it just depends on what it is. I'm not sure about mushrooms, however. Frozen. Okay. So I think that is it for my time. Thank you.
Thank you, medical missionary Laverne Reed. We appreciate you. All right, did a great job. All right. Okay, so we're going to try to wind this down by 6:30. By 6:30, okay? I realize it's been a long day for most of you. Of course, a lot of you missed Sabbath school. So we could throw some time in extra, right? Yeah. No, that would be called punishment in terms of tit for tat. We don't do tit for tat, but we would like to encourage you to attend Sabbath school. In fact, there was a pretty good, short, lively discussion on meat eating this morning in Sabbath school. Y'all didn't know that, did you? Uh-huh. Some of these questions are getting answered now. In fact, we won't reiterate any of those points. Just study your lesson from last week if you didn't, and then add that on to this week's study. Brother Lionel, you have another song for us, my friend? Yes, sir, my favorite saxophonist. Up and coming. Y'all better get his autograph now. Y'all know that, right? Yeah, you need to do that. And when the CD rolls out, support him. support him. He's actually gone into education, I believe, the last time I spoke with him, and started a graduate program as well. He works in San Antonio, but he came to be with us this weekend. We have representatives from Share for Life all over the place. We try to bring them together under one roof at one time to deliver one message. And so he came to join us from there. We have another lady, member of our team, who's actually visiting in Jamaica right now. Won't be back until the 30th. Yes. With Share for Life, call me. My number, I'll give that to you. 800 Share for Life. No, I'm just teasing. Don't write that down. I'm going to try to hook that one. I'm trying to get that one, but we don't have it yet. I'll give it to you. It is 256 604 1723. Brother Sandy Robinson. We should have our website up and running real soon too, so we'll be able to get a lot more information, even information that we don't have time to share during our presentations. We'll have some resources online you can go and check out. Okay? There's a lot of great information. My wife has recently got interested in doing poultices. I don't know if y'all know what that is, but it's when you take a natural product like a potato or an onion, and you can make a paste out of it, utilizing that and probably one other ingredient. And it does things like draws toxins out of your body. For kids with colds, that have colds, coughing, if you put their feet in a bag of chopped onions overnight and keep that on, it'll stop that cough. Pull the toxins out of the kids' bodies. Yeah. That's called a poultice. But my wife expressed recent interest in that. So there are a lot of things like that, that we're not able to share with you from here, at least yet. And sometimes these programs, if you do them correctly and comprehensively, can go over a 3 or 4 day period, And one day, I'm telling you what my dream is while he's setting up. My dream is to have a Share for Life retreat where you can physically come and get healed while you're there. By the beach somewhere. It could be in Jamaica. It could be in South Texas. I don't know. But that's my dream. That's my vision. Part of my vision. Amen. Yeah, pray over that. Pray over us. Yes, ma'am. Africa. I love Africa. That's one of my favorite continents. Wow. Amazing. We need to follow you next time you're over there. What part of Africa are you from, or are you from Africa? Nigeria. Okay, fantastic. Wow. You know what that's called? Vita Cola. Okay. Yeah, I need to do some research on that. Fantastic. We need to get some of that, bottle it up. Hey, we need to get it before they get it. You know who the they is, right? Right. Man. I present to you. Thank you, Leonel. I present to you, finally, Dr. Fiona Lindo. You heard her this morning. God used her in a mighty way. Wait to hear what she has in store for you this afternoon.
All right, everyone stand up for me. Stand up, stand up, stand up. Stand up for Jesus. Just kind of put your hands up. Let's just do a stretch. Kind of stomp in your seat if you like. Move those feet, right? Wiggle your hips a bit. It's okay to move in church. All right? Very good. Give somebody a hug next to you. Come, hug me, hug me. Exercise and sharing and giving some love. Awesome stuff. So I've been given 30 minutes or less, actually, to do an hour presentation. So we're going to go through this very, very quickly, okay? We're going to talk about the benefits of God's original diet. Isn't that exciting? Thank you, Laverne, for just setting it up for us. Now you all know the building blocks, right, of your body and what your body needs. We're going to delve into what is God's original diet, and we're going to look at it from the scientific side of things. Can you go back? Is there a way for... There we go. I think I just felt it go on somehow. I think so. There we go. Yep. Okay. Perfect. So when I was in medical school, I'll never forget it, I was on my pediatric rotation, and this young mom brought her son in to see us. Now this mother was distraught because her son was sick. And she brought him into our office, and I remember sitting down and talking with her, and as I looked at this young, cute boy, it's almost like my heart was hurting. This young boy was 6 years old. His one leg was as big as my two legs together. That's one leg. And cute face, but cute, just chubby, chubby face. So we ran a bunch of blood tests on him, did some imaging, some x-rays, some other things. And when we got the report, I was shocked. My attending at the time has said that he said, this is an epidemic. I see this all the time. And what this young boy had was metabolic syndrome. Does anyone know what metabolic syndrome is? It's a combination of 3 of the chronic diseases that usually occur in older adults, those who are more wise and sophisticated in age. It's an eating disease, right? Diabetes, hypertension, and high cholesterol. This boy, how old did I say he was? 6 years old, had a chronic illness that usually occurs in people who are of an older age. So what was going on? So I asked her, I said, tell me a little bit about your lifestyle. Like, what is he eating? Like, well, they lived in the apartment blocks right behind the hospital. She said, well, in the morning, I go to the Golden Arches and I get him his breakfast. It's a $1 menu, so I make sure I get his lunch that's going to go to school with him as well. And then I have to work in the evenings, so I make sure that there's an order of the burger as well at home for him to eat that he gets to warm up. So every day this young boy was eating Mickey D's for breakfast, for lunch, and for dinner. And it allowed this 6-year-old to develop the major chronic diseases that are plaguing us today. So today we're going to go on a little fact-finding mission. I'm a scientist by trade, so we're going to go on this research tour this afternoon, okay? We're going to first look at facts, then we're going to look at food, and then of course, finally, we're going to focus on faith. In the United States, this country, we suffer from significant chronic diseases, okay? And here, if you can see, it's kind of small, but if you can see, are the top 10 diseases that plague every American. Hypertension, high cholesterol, arthritis, ischemic heart disease, diabetes, chronic kidney disease, heart failure, depression, Alzheimer's, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Now, how many of you would like an extra $10,000 in their pocket? Is it just me? I mean, we're talking an extra $10,000 a year. Who wants that? Yeah? Do you know that the entire budget for the U.S. that is paid for medical care, the healthcare costs, the annual healthcare costs, is over $2.7 trillion. Just for cardiovascular diseases alone, $316 billion. Cancer care, $157 billion, okay? I mean, I don't even understand those numbers. They're just too big for me to understand. Now, if an individual has only one chronic disease, hey, high cholesterol, or hypertension, or diabetes, it is costing that individual $10,563 a year. Okay? So, just alone, by following God's original plan and diet, we can gain an extra $10,000 in our pocket yearly that we can use to go on vacation and be restful and use for His service. Isn't that right? So the top 10 causes of death in the U.S., 46% of all deaths are caused by, what's the number one cause? What's the number one cause? I know, I was shocked too, because when I was doing this before, I was like, definitely cancer is the number one cause of death in this country. All we hear about is cancer, right? We hear about cancer preventing things. We hear about the Breast Cancer Society, the American Cancer Society. We always think that cancer, that's what we hear in our heads. But no, can you see that? It's heart disease. Heart disease is the number one cause of death in this country. 46% of all deaths are heart disease and cancer, okay? 7 of the top 10 causes of death were the chronic diseases that I listed, okay? 1 in every 4 deaths in the US is due to heart disease. Now, heart disease is an effect of the abnormal effect of the blood vessels, which the blood, which she talked about, has to run through our body. Blood is important because it's bringing the nutrients and it's also bringing oxygen to the key parts of our body. Number 1, the first artery that goes up goes to our brain, because that's, if our brain's not working, it's not going to help to make the rest of our body work, right? Secondly, when it comes off the lungs, the blood goes to the heart. The heart's the second most important thing. Why? It's pumping the blood through the body so that we can get the oxygen can get to the far tips of our fingers down to the tips of our feet. Now, when you have heart disease, it's usually caused by something called atherosclerosis. Now, Atherosclerosis is not caused by old age like we like to think, okay? It's actually caused by plaques in the arteries that develop as a result of foods and things that we eat. Cholesterol. Now, think about this. Blood is going through the body, and you start to, develop all these plaques that kind of coat the wall of your blood vessels. Has anyone taken a garden hose and watered the garden before? Come on now, we all done it, right? Or you want to spray your sibling. I used to like to spray my brothers. But when you take that hose, if you don't have the fancy knob at the end, and you really want to reach your brother at the far corner, what do? You push your finger down on it, right? And it gives you a harder force, right? So that exact thing happens in the blood vessels once the blood vessel is coated with these plaques. And so you end up with what? High blood pressure. Now your heart's like trying to beat and just trying to push this blood through these blocked vessels, and it causes turbulence, and it hits the wall of the vessel, right? And then it injures that wall of the vessel, and now you start having clots forming on the side of that vessel. And then that clot breaks off because the pressure is going through, and where does that clot go? It could go to the brain and cause stroke. It could go in the heart and cause a heart attack. It could be stuck here in the leg and give you a blood clot. It could go into the lungs and cause you to have a pulmonary embolus, okay? So this is where it starts, all right? And all of this is a result of lifestyle choices that cause the excess cholesterol and all of these things. But what's so awesome is that when lifestyle choices cause this, lifestyle choices can prevent, and what's so exciting that you're going to see today, that can also reverse it. Isn't that a blessing? So one of the top causes of heart disease are modifiable risk factors. So what are some of the risk factors that you can think of that may lead to heart disease? Okay, diet, absolutely. What else? Lack of exercise, so a sedentary lifestyle. Smoking, yes. High blood cholesterol, that's so you get that from, remember what Laverne said earlier? Where do we get our cholesterol from? From animal products. Our body itself makes its own cholesterol. Okay, so now if you're taking in animal products, you're adding excessive cholesterol, and where is it going? It's going to our arteries, right? So if you have high cholesterol and you want to lower it, you remove the source of the cholesterol, which is what? Animal products. Anything that's animal product. So an egg is from an animal, yes. Good. So other modifiable risk factor, high blood pressure, overweight or obesity, and a sedentary lifestyle. So these are things that we can do to prevent heart disease, and these are modifiable risk factors. They're modifiable because we can actually do something about them, right? Now, a lot of times we say, oh, it's our genetics. Oh, it's our genetics. That's the reason why I have diabetes. It's genetics. That's why I have high blood pressure. It's genetics. Let me tell you, folks, it's not genetics. That's just a crux that we've been hanging on to for many, many years. Research is showing that it's not really genetics. Less than 5% of diseases that we suffer with today are genetics, okay? And a lot of times, too, it's amazing. The brain, sometimes we think, oh, it's the brain. Once it's there, it's there. No, the brain is plastic. It can change. Things can change, and it depends on what you put into your system. So we have hope. That's something that gives us hope, okay? So we're going to go through some of these studies here. And I like to bring studies into play because this is research, okay? This is what is being studied. This is what the evidence is. These are facts. We're talking about facts right now, okay? So here's a study that was that came out in January of this year. And this study looked at the association of dietary inflammatory potential with colorectal cancer risk in women and men. And what did this study show? It found that processed meat, red meat, organ meat, refined flour, sugary drinks were the most foods linked most to cancer-related diseases, okay? So the inflammation that was found as a result of these foods led to cancer. In this study, they found that people who ate the most inflammatory foods were 37% more likely to develop colon cancer and 70% more likely to develop rectal cancer. And I will tell you that the incidence of rectal and colon cancer, folks, a lot of times we think it's older people. No. We're seeing it in 20-year-olds, in 30-year-olds. The young people are getting hit with this rectal cancer and colon cancer. It's not the old people like it was before. It's the young people that are getting hit. I've had patients in my office, 20s, colon cancer, had to get half their colon removed, and they're wearing a bag, okay? It's not fun. This study is coming out from the European Journal of Cancer. This was February of this year. Red and processed meat consumption and breast cancer. What did this study find? They had a 7-year follow-up. That's what's so great about these European studies. They have a really long follow-up. So they looked at women who developed breast cancer. And they found that their risk to develop breast cancer was increased if they had 9 grams of processed meat consumption a day. Over 9 grams of processed meat consumption in a day. Those who consume the most processed meats, and we're averaging about 20 grams a day, which is less than the size of a hot dog, okay, increased their risk by 21%. That's not a lot. I mean, I'm sure we can eat more than 1 hot dog, right? So we're talking about half of a hot dog, okay? Let's talk about milk. It does the body good. Everyone know that commercial? That was like the biggest lie, it's the biggest fallacy to this entire, that we've been told. Honestly, they say milk has what? Calcium, is good for the bones, right? It does the actual opposite. So look here. There's a study here looking at the milk intake and risk of mortality and fractures in women and men. Women who drank 3+ glasses of milk a day had 60% increased risk for fracture. Wait a minute, it's supposed to help my bones. What are they saying? Milk actually, it depletes the calcium from the bone, okay? It also causes inflammation in the joints. So if you have arthritis or any inflammatory issue, you need to remove milk from your diet. Why is that? Why is that? Do you know what milk is? Thank you. Who said that? Okay, we're going to talk after. 40, you said? Okay, well, we'll get there. We'll get there. You didn't hear about the colon cancer and rectal cancer? He said that he's going to start at 40, when he's going to go plant-based at 40. He's going to wait till he's 40. And we're going to talk about this, and we'll see that you don't want to wait. You want to change from now, right? So when they looked at this study, there was actually no reduction in fractures seen. The risk of dying increased from all causes by 15%. Heart disease, 15%. Cancer, 7%. In women who consumed 3+ glasses of milk per day, when they looked at this follow-up, they found that their risk of dying increased by 93%. Okay? Now, we're looking at fractures. Now, breaking a hip, that will increase your mortality by 90% when you're at an elderly age, which is why you want to do your weight-bearing exercises, right? You want to eat your green leafies to get your calcium, not the milk. That's where you're going to get your calcium from, your dark green leafies. Okay? Here's another study. Drinking milk associated with fractures and death. This was from the British Medical Journal. Dairy linked to lung, breast, and ovarian cancers. Removing dairy from your diet may lower your risk for cancer. Dairy and other animal fat increases risk for heart disease. Dairy products increase your risk for ovarian cancer. Dairy products increase prostate cancer mortality. Milk and cheese increase risk for breast cancer, and the list goes on and on. I mean, there's no room on the page to really talk about all the studies out there that shows that, okay? So milk is the white blood cell, the pus of another animal. So when you put that into your system, it's foreign to you, right? It's foreign to your body. And what does your body's immune system do? It's fighting it. It's fighting it. It's fighting it. So it doesn't even give you a chance if you have something that's real, like a cold or a real bug that's attacking you. Your body's busy fighting the pus of an unknown thing. And your body's not able to regenerate. You understand? God has created us in such a way that we're able to regenerate ourselves. We're made to live forever, isn't it? We're made to live forever. So he, in his wisdom, created us in such a state. But we have to put the right things into our bodies that he listed out in Genesis 1. Alzheimer's disease. This is a study that looked at the dietary risk factors for Alzheimer's. Consumption of meat increased disease risk the most, followed by eggs, and then followed by high-fat dairy. Fact: a whole food, plant-based diet has been proven to not just prevent, but can even reverse some of our worst and biggest chronic diseases, such as heart disease and diabetes. Isn't that awesome? We saw a bunch of research studies that are this year, right? These were this year studies, research that just came out this year. Let's go back to the oldest research study, okay? Daniel 1. We talked about it a little bit this morning, right? But Daniel, what? He resolved not to defile himself with the royal food and wine, and he asked the chief official for permission not to defile himself this way. But the official was scared, right? And so, what did Daniel do? He went to the bouncer, right? He went to the official's bodyguard. He went to him, because he's the one passing the food out, right? And the guard then, he petitioned the guard and said, hey, listen, you know, all we need is some what? Some pulse, some vegetables, and some water. Now, why was the king's official worried and scared about doing this? You know, the king had said, listen, you need to have them eat from the table. You know, you have the pig's head there, the roast beef, you have the wine barrels pouring, right? All the fatty foods, all this stuff, which is the rich foods, right? The rich foods, right? And they were concerned that they were going to look worse than all the rest of the men. And what did Daniel say? This is where the research study started. He said, test your servants for 10 days. How many days? 10 days. Give us nothing but vegetables to eat and water to drink. And here's now we have two groups. When you do a study, you want to have two groups, right? You have the one control group, and then you have your comparison group, right? And now this is a prospective study. We're not looking back and seeing what's happening. We're looking forward now to see what's going to happen, okay? We're comparing the two groups. One group is eating from the king's table. The other group is eating the vegetables and water. How many days? Now we have a time point. How many days is it? 10 days, okay? So they agreed. He said, listen, If you look okay, then we'll continue. But we're going to do the 10 days. Genesis 1:29, we've read this already. I have provided all kinds of grain, all kinds of fruit for you to eat. Every seed-bearing plant on the face of the whole earth, and every tree that has fruit with seed in it, they will be yours for food. What are the study results? At the end of the 10 days, they looked healthier and better, more nourished than any of the other young men who ate the royal food. Not only that, God gave to these 4 young men knowledge, understanding, wisdom of all kinds of literature and learning, isn't it? And we know how the story goes. They were appointed to be head over the whole entire kingdom of Babylon. Their captors, they're slaves, they were enslaved, and now these slaves are being over their captors. Isn't that awesome? God is awesome. So we looked at that study that was done back in what did I say, 563 BC? 564 BC? Let's fast forward to today, okay? This study is looking at, done in 2010, looking at the effect of a 21-day Daniel fast, the effect that this has on metabolic and cardiovascular disease factors in men and women. So what is the Daniel fast? What is it? Fruits and veggies. What's the time point in this study? 21 days, okay? Less than a month, right? 3 weeks. What do we see? The results from the present study indicate that a 21-day Daniel fast significantly reduces your systolic and your diastolic blood pressure, significantly reduces total cholesterol, your LDL, and it increases the good cholesterol. What it also does is decreases inflammation and all of those factors that will cause inflammation. Exactly what Brother Sandy just shared with us. Isn't that what happened? Right? He got to throw out those blood pressure medications, and that wasn't even 21 days. That was in how many days? That was in 7, right? That was in 7 days, wasn't it? In this study, it's talking about a plant-based diet and coronary artery disease, a mandate for effective therapy. Now, this study was one of the key studies. This is Dr. Esselstyn, okay? These are one of the key studies that really started to make people wake up and say, hey, there's something in this. Here you can see a picture of the plaque. Remember the arteries that we talked about? Okay? And in this study, the initial study, they had men who were scheduled for open heart surgery. Okay? Open heart surgery. They were basically supposed to be on the table, their hearts cracked open, and they're going to now try to repair these vessels. Okay? They went on a plant-based diet. You see the progression? Can you see the progression? Here, there's the plaques here. And then, oh, look, it looks a little bit less. And now, look, it looks less, right? Now, you may be just saying, well, you know what? This is just a picture. Anyone could draw this. This isn't it. Well, no, we actually have imaging studies. You can see here, you see the darkness here, how it's blocked, right? Here looks bright, all this bright area, that's an open vessel, right? So here you see this blockage here, and then over here, do you see that? Do you see it still? Where is it? Do you see that? It's open. Look over here. You see it, that like a triangular dent in there? Look. It's open. 30% improvement after following a 60-month plant-based diet and cholesterol-lowering medication. This EPIC study was a study that was done in 2014, and what this looked at was how does a plant-based diet, or how does diet affect your cholesterol? Well, you can see here that the more plant-based the diet got, the lower the person's cholesterol was. And we understand that, right? Because we know that cholesterol comes from meat, right? From animal products. So you can see the meat eaters, that's you can see here the meat eaters here, the fish eaters, oh, the cholesterol went down a little bit. The vegetarians went down a little bit, but look at the ones that were plant-based completely. Do you see that? The total cholesterol was dropped completely. Does anyone know who this man is? Never heard of him? Dean Ornish? Now, Dean Ornish, he did the landmark study. Now, a landmark study is one that is randomized control. Okay, so when you have a randomized control trial, just trust me, there's different levels of different studies, but an RCT, a randomized controls trial, that is the gold standard for trials. Okay, if you want to find out about something and there's a RCT, a randomized control trial, it is the gold standard. So he did this trial, the Lifestyle Heart Trial, and what he proposed was that you have the control group that just ate what they wanted, okay? Then they had the other group who had a low-fat vegetarian diet, modest exercise. Remember all these modifiable risk factors? No smoking, and finally, stress management. And this was published in The Lancet. The Lancet is one of the major medical journals, all right? And this was the first time that it was demonstrated that heart disease can actually be reversed without medicines, okay? Most times, doctors were just like, it's impossible. It's impossible that this can even happen. There has to be medication, there has to be surgery. So he took these patients, and these patients were those who were scheduled for surgery, for open heart surgery, and he had them go on this diet. What happened? I mean, when I saw this, I was like jumping. I was like, what? I get excited about things. But I was really excited about this. How much reversal occurred? I can't hear you. We're not even talking half. We're not even talking 50%, people. We're talking 82% reversal. Isn't that awesome? Following God's original diet, these people who were supposed to be on the table, okay, had 82% reversal of their heart disease, no medication, no surgery, and no side effects. This is serious stuff. It's awesome. I just get shivers when I think about this. What did they eat? A plant-based diet. So anything that grows from the ground. Nothing processed, no animal products. Everything was plant-based. And we're going to talk about some things that we can eat in a little bit, okay? This study here, this was a study that looked again at the epidemic of cardiovascular disease. And why I put this one in here was the fact that it was interesting to note that when people are living in places where their primary diet is veg and plant-based, and then they come to the country of the plenty, right? They think that the meat and the Mickey D's and all these things are a lot better. But when you were back home and you're eating the food from your garden, right? Going to the field and harvesting your yam and your potato and picking your mangoes and picking your plantain and all those things off the tree, that was better. You're not only getting exercise, but you're eating your plant-based. And only during the holidays, rarely, maybe Easter and Christmas is when you're getting the one little piece of meat that you're supposed to share with your 12 brothers and sisters, right? Okay? So this study actually looked at that. It looked at those areas that were mostly would be eating plant-based and saw the changes that occurred after. So the epidemic of cardiovascular disease is non-existent in cultures which thrive predominantly on whole foods and plant-based nutrition. So let's talk about preventing heart disease. Now this is a study by Dr. Baxter Montgomery, the same doctor that treated you. Now, he defined a plant-based diet utilized in an outpatient cardiovascular clinic, so in his clinic, and this study showed that it effectively treats hypercholesterolemia, so high cholesterol, hypertension, and reduces the use of medications. Again, it showed that the blood pressure decreased significantly. This is just the same thing that happened in the Daniel study, right? Blood pressure decreased. Intakes of raw fruits, vegetables, and seeds reduced weight, reduced the lipids, reduced your waist circumference. You might ask, what is the importance of waist circumference? Though that is one of the markers of mortality. Your waist circumference. Why? The fat that lives around here is the bad fat. There's good fat in the body, the fat that keeps you warm, that's the brown fat. And then you have the yellow fat, which is the bad fat, okay? That fat has significant inflammation, okay? It has a lot, the fat, when it sits there and it's there, it causes cancer-causing agents. It allows your DNA not to work properly. Okay, so when it talks about that waist circumference, decreasing that is very, very important. C-reactive protein. So it reduced weight, lipids, your weight, your lipids, your waist circumference, C-reactive protein, and medication in just how many weeks? In 4 weeks. So it's one of the markers that's used to identify your risk for mortality. Mm-hmm. So here's another study here, and this is Dr. Baxter Montgomery again. And what this showed was that the plant-based diet reversed the cardiovascular risk factors and that it reduced medications, okay? His first study was a smaller cohort, and so, you know, us scientific-minded people are like, oh, you know, there's a lot of variables here because you have a really small sample size. You know, you didn't meet the sample size. I was like, okay, wait, just wait. Let me come back in 2 years, and here we go. We have a bigger sample size, and so now we're really showing that it reduces these things. We talked about Alzheimer's, memory loss. This study showed that the consumption of meat actually increased the disease risk the most, followed by eggs and high-fat dairy. But high intakes of fruits, vegetables, and grains actually reduce the risk for Alzheimer's disease. So we talked about the facts. Is everyone clear about the facts? Yeah? Let's talk about some food. This is my favorite topic. I love food. Everyone who knows me knows I'm a foodie. But I'm a plant-based foodie. And trust me, I can give you some good places here in Houston to go. So the question was asked, what can I do? What should I eat, right? Well, I want to focus a little bit on the learning mindset. Because God has given us all these different things that we can do, but he says first and foremost to do what? To trust in the Lord. Come on, read it with me. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Never rely on what you think you know. Remember the Lord in everything you do, and he's going to do what? He is going to show you the right way. So you have to have a positive mindset, a positive attitude, right? That's how we can make changes in our lives, positive changes. And what's so awesome is God has given us that spiritual eye, right? He's given us our spiritual mind so that we can have reason and have a conscience and make healthy choices with judgment, right? So, what do you eat? If you are sick, okay, or on death's door, If you to heal your body like you talk plants, okay? Raw food, store. It's waste that is sitting in your system, okay, causing your body to now be sick. And what are those sicknesses? It causes cancer because now your body doesn't have the proper DNA to work there. It's abnormal. And so now this abnormal DNA is replicating itself, and the checks and balances that that God has created in our body to stop the abnormal cells is not there. And these abnormal cells start to replicate. Okay? It all comes back. It all comes back, folks. So what are the optimal fiber ranges that we should be having? How much fiber should we be having a day? Someone tell me, anything? 10? Okay, anyone else? Anyone else? Did you say 40? I usually have gifts, and you would have gotten a prize. Okay? 25 to 50 a day. We say 40 grams of fiber a day. 40 grams of fiber a day is what an adult should have. How much fiber do you think we're getting? We'll see about that in a second. Children should be getting 20 grams of fiber if they're 1 to 3 years old. And if they're 4 to 8 years old, they should be getting 25 grams of fiber a day. And a lot of times I hear parents say, oh, it's so hard to get my kids to eat certain things. And let me tell you, blend it up and put it in the pizza sauce, okay? They like pizza, all they want to eat is pizza. Blend it up and put it in the sauce, right? They need to get their fiber. And a lot of our children are not getting the appropriate fiber. They're getting the cereal and the milk in the morning, and so now they're going to school drunk, because we learned today that milk and sugar turns into alcohol, right? And then we wonder why they can't do well in school, and then they label them as being hyperactive and ADHD, right? And they give them the medication, so now their minds are even more affected, when it really comes back to what are they eating? What are they watching? I didn't even get into all of that. Okay? So, how much fiber am I getting? You guys know how much fiber you're getting? So the average daily intake of fiber that occurs in this country is 10 grams. Way under the appropriate amount that we should be getting. Okay? So fiber content in foods, what's so great about this is because I'm talking about fiber because it's a point I want you to leave here with. But when you eat these foods, you're not only just getting fiber, you're getting all your nutrients. You're getting every single nutrient that your body needs when you eat all of the foods that God has created for us to eat. So in your whole grains, 2 to 12 grams in a cup. Vegetables, 2 to 12 grams in a cup. Beans, 10 to 16 grams in a cup. Okay? So here's where we have our little, small little test. Who likes cornflakes in the morning? So good, it's healthy. I'm getting my cereal in. 2 grams. Your cup of milk. There must be some fiber in milk. 0 grams. Let's top it off with a great glass of orange juice. I'm eating my healthy breakfast. How many grams of fiber is there? 0. And do you know how much sugar is in a glass of orange juice? How much? 32 ounces. 32 grams, I'm sorry, 32 grams. 32 grams. Just a glass of just your orange juice. Yeah, like the one you get in the store. Just read your labels. 32 grams. So we got a total of 2 grams of fiber and a whopping total of 480 calories. Okay? On the flip side, let's look at this. 1.5 cups of cooked oats. 6 grams of fiber. Half a cup of blackberries. 4 grams of fiber. That's like eating like 5 blackberries. 5 blackberries. They're good too. 4 grams of fiber. Let's add some blueberries to that. 2 grams of fiber. Just throw in a few walnuts. 2 grams of fiber. How much fiber are we getting? See that? 14 grams of fiber. We're basically, on our way to getting our full amount of fiber for the day, and we're getting all of the nutrients that we have there. And guess what? Look at the calories. They're less. We got more food here, more colorful, more full, more nutrients, and less calories. Now, if you're telling me that I can eat more food and still have less calories, I'm for it. Because as I told you guys, I love food. And actually, I do eat more than most men, okay? I eat more than my brothers. My dad said that he would rather clothe me than feed me. And that's telling a girl that they'll rather clothe you than feed you. That's serious. Let's look at lunch items. Yes, a cheeseburger. I heard a yay in the house. How many grams of fiber? Can you imagine? Only 1 measly gram of fiber. A medium French fries. That's vegetables, right? Potatoes. They're fried, yeah. I love fries. 5 grams of fiber. Your drink. 0 grams of fiber. How much grams of fiber for this meal? I know. It hurts. Look at the calories. I mean, it's like a waste, really, isn't it? It's a waste of a meal. Yeah, you have a question? Well, then, you know what? You're going to double the calories. Instead of 900, it's going to be 1,800. And it's going to add, maybe another 2 grams of fiber. So now instead of a grand total of 6, now we're at about 8. So instead, let's see, like a small mixed green salad, that's about 2 grams. Cup of black beans, look at that, 15 grams of fiber. And not only are you getting your fiber in this black beans, you're getting your protein, you're getting your iron, okay? Your minerals as well. Some brown rice, 2 grams. I know people cringe at the brown rice, but let me tell you, the reason for it, okay? There's different types of carbohydrates. I'm just going to throw this in really quick. There's different types of carbohydrates. There's complex carbohydrates, and there's simple, okay? Now, for the first time, I shouldn't say this. Brown is good, okay? Brown is good. White, not good. White rice, white flour, white bread, white sugar, not good. Why? When you eat it, they're processed. When you eat it and it goes into your system, right? Goes into your stomach, it goes into your bloodstream, and immediately it's sugar. It shocks your pancreas. The pancreas is like, oh my goodness, look at all this sugar. Quick, 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 quick. Let's get the insulin out, get the insulin out, get the insulin out. The insulin just comes out in droves, right? You were high at first, and then all of a sudden you're sleeping after you ate. Why? Right? The sugar drops, and you feel weak, and you feel faint. You see? The itis sets in, right? The itis sets in, right? So when you eat the simple carbohydrates, it affects your system, and so then this cycle goes on. Now you're feeling tired, and now you're like, okay, let me just quickly eat this bar, this candy bar. And you eat it, and the same thing happens. It shocks the pancreas again. You feel good for a few minutes, maybe 30 minutes, maybe an hour. The pancreas throws out all this insulin, tries to get the glucose out of the cells, because when the glucose is in the blood vessels, it's actually toxic to the vessels. When you eat those complex carbohydrates, the brown foods, okay? The brown rice, the brown bread, the brown sugar, okay? You know the rock sugar that you had back home, right? The cane that was just the raw one that you made. It goes into the system and it slowly breaks down. So now this sugar is slowly entering your bloodstream. So the pancreas is fine. It's slowly giving the insulin and allowing things to be even. So it prevents you from having this way up high and this way down low. Does that make sense? That is why brown rice is better than white rice. And even though we like our white rice, let me tell you, there's some great brown rices out there. You just have to experiment. Just go out there, go to the Asian stores where they have the ground piled high with all different types of rices. You can go in there and there'll be about 100 different types of rice. And on one side, you'll see all these brown rices. I've come to like the Japanese short grain rice because it tastes the closest to parboiled rice. You know how, like, I remember my mom used to start giving us the brown rice, and we used to be with our forks. Give us parboiled. We want parboiled. We want parboiled. But it tastes the closest to parboiled. It's very good. You had a question? Right, so now, and what kind of rice were you eating? Yeah? And how much rice were you eating on your plate? Okay, okay. So this is what I want to put in your spirit. A lot of times when we make our plates, right? First of all, our plates are boring color, right? It's brown and white. That's it, usually, right? And I have all my patients, everyone that comes to my office, they all have to draw their plate for me, okay? Now, I'm a doctor that deals with the bladder and the bowels and other things, and they draw their plate because it all affects everything. And a lot of times when they draw that line, I draw the line down the middle, and I said, now tell me, what does your plate look like? I'm telling you about 99.9% of the time, on one side, is your white rice or your white potato, the full side, and then the other side of the plate is your meat, and then there may be a small little circle right here for their veg, okay? It should be flipped, absolutely. It should be flipped. It should be your veg takes the whole half, okay? Down at the side here, your quarter, you have your proteins like your beans, legumes, and then down the bottom you have your complex carbs. So what is good for weight loss is your red and yellow carbs, okay? Red sweet potato. Purple potato is the best. Purple potatoes. So colorful. That's what you're going to leave from here. Colorful. Make your plate colorful. We'll talk a little bit more. So here, the corn tortilla, 2 grams. Total fiber, look at that. 21 grams of fiber. Who likes some, tacos, right? 21 grams of fiber. And look at the calories. Only 400 calories. So fiber has many benefits. It helps to decrease your weight, decreases your appetite, it decreases your blood sugar, decreases the insulin that's pumped out, okay? And it decreases your blood pressure. It speeds the transit time in your bowels, okay? It has anti-inflammatory properties in your gastrointestinal system. It lowers IBS, constipation, diverticulosis. I'm telling you, a lot of my patients, they come in there and they're saying, you know what? My bowels, I have problems. I have IBS, I have this. You take out the caffeine from your diet, you take out all dairy products, even the cheese, and majority of them come back and say, I'm completely cured. It lowers the risk of colon cancer, fights diabetes and heart disease, obesity. A healthy diet pattern can result in significant weight loss without counting calories or fat grams. You can eat to your heart's content. You can eat to your heart's content because God says that His food, the table will be bountiful, right? You can eat to your heart's content of His food. Persons who consume generous amounts of dietary fiber compared to those who have minimal fiber intake are at lower risk for developing chronic heart disease, stroke, hypertension, diabetes, obesity, and certain GI diseases. Color Me Healthy. These foods contain phytochemicals that have anti-cancer and anti-inflammatory properties, which confer many health benefits. So when I talk about having your plate looking colorful, get all those colors. Get the red, get the yellow, get the pink, get the purple, get the green, get the white, the little bit of white, just small bit of white. Get the orange, okay? Because that is where your nutrients are gonna come from. Eat a rich rainbow of colors. God has given everything that He's created, every herb, healing, fruit, and plant for us to enjoy. And I'm going to say this. When you go to the grocery store, this is only one task you're going to have to do. When you go to the grocery store, at least once a quarter, I like to do it maybe once a month, but at least once a quarter, you're going to go into the grocery store and you're going to get a veg or fruit that you've never had before. That you've never had before. We're so used to getting the carrots, the peas, the lettuce. That's my salad, right? Or if you're from the West Indies, it's the cabbage grated with the carrot, right? And that's it. I mean, there's so much. God has given us a whole rainbow of colors and a rainbow of food for us to enjoy. He wants us to enjoy our life here on earth, right? He's given us so much. And so you can go choose a veg, choose a fruit, and if you don't know how to prepare it, I used to say just talk to the person next to you that's buying that fruit, right? Make a friend, or just Google it. I mean, now we have access to Google. We can just Google it and it'll come up. There'll be a video of even how to prepare it, how to wash it, how to peel it, how to cook it, right? And you'll get to experience something new. And God says that His mercies are what? New every morning, right? Let them be new. Choose more of the good stuff. I like this one here. Calorie dense or calorie sense. So, 5-ounce chocolate bar. Calorie sense or calorie dense? You think so? You have to eat 3 pounds of apples to get the same amount of calories that you're going to get from a 5-ounce chocolate bar. Now, the last time I checked, an O. Henry bar, do you guys have O. Henry here? Yeah, is O. Henry here? A O. Henry bar was more than 5 ounces, right? Calorie dense or calorie sense? The typical breakfast item, right? They bring it into the office all the time, the Danishes and the donuts. You need to eat an apple, a banana, an orange, and half a cantaloupe to get the equivalent of calories of 1 Danish. You can eat your belly full and more, right? Calorie dense or calorie sense? 1 milkshake. Now, how many people have sat down and eaten 5 bananas at one time? You have? 6? Awesome. That's equivalent to 1 milkshake. Majority of us don't sit down and eat. And were they the small ones? The big ones. So we have somebody here who actually ate 6 bananas at one time. But he's waving here. So unless you're a monkey, right? I've had a monkey jump on my back and steal a banana literally out of my backpack when I was working in India. Literally, my breakfast, I was mad. But unless you're a monkey, you're not going to be eating 5 bananas in one sitting, right? Use of healthy fats like avocados, nuts, and olive oils is good. However, use it in moderation, in small quantities. You remember her chart? That was a small portion of what is necessary for us to survive. Let your food be your medicine, and your medicine be your food. Now, is that what you want in your plate? Does that look enticing? Exactly. And that's $500 right there. Right? And your plate's empty. I'm going to empower you to make a change. Frequent the produce department. Enjoy a variety of colors. Focus on the beans, the whole grains, and the legumes. Eat more family meals at home. Begin your meals with the veg, the raw fruit. Pack your meals for work and school. A lot of times if you cook something, just pack it up and take it with you. Okay? You won't be having to rush to go out and grab something that you know is probably not going to be the best. Choose veggie options when eating out. Read your labels. Read your labels. Now, if you pick up something and the ingredients is half the words you can't even pronounce, you probably shouldn't be putting it in your system, right? So read your labels and drink plenty of water in between meals. Pardon? Yes, it's good. Well, you have a great teacher. That's awesome. More color, more variety, more flavor. You'll have what? More fun when you feel better, isn't it? When you feel better, life is better. You have more energy to do things that you want. You have more money in your pocket so you can actually do those things that you want to do, isn't it? We talked about the facts. We talked about food. Let's talk about some faith. Again, going back to Genesis 1. You guys are not going to forget this, are you? It's a theme here. I've provided all kinds of grain, all kinds of fruit for you to eat. Every seed-bearing plant on the face of the whole earth, and every tree that has fruit and seed in it, they will be yours for food. God's original diet is one that is holistic. It's restorative. It's our medicine. It's protective, and it's long-lasting. It protects His creation holistically. It protects each other. It protects the animals, and it also protects Earth's resources. So why do you spend money for what is not good and your wages for what does not satisfy? Don't you know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit who lives in you and who is given to you by God? You do not belong to yourselves, but to God. He bought you for a price, so use your bodies for God's glory. In Isaiah 55, verse 2, God says, "Listen carefully to me and eat what is good, and let your soul delight itself in abundance." More plant foods mean, I can't hear you. What's the answer? All of you guys are awesome students. You guys got it right. Thank you so much for listening. You have some questions? Sorry? Yes. Yes. Which one can you have? So, milk, you can have the milk that are made from nut proteins. So, almond milk, cashew milk, rice milk, soy milk comes in the bean, soy milk. Yeah. Yeah, so you get the ones that are unsweetened. 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 Or you can get some raw nuts yourself, soak it in some water. Everyone have a blender? Put it in the blender and blend it. Add a little bit of vanilla if you want a little bit of cinnamon, and make your milk. A pinch of salt, and you make your milk. It's very quick and easy. You can take almonds or cashews or any kind of nut that you want. Raw nuts. Yep. You don't have to soak it for long. So if you, for me, if I want to do it quick, I'll get some hot water and I'll just put them in hot water for like about 5 minutes, and then just take it out and put it in the blender and blend it. If you want to soak it for longer, you can, but you don't have to. You can actually soak them if you want and put them in the freezer, and then take them out when you're ready. Just add a little bit of hot water to it, blend it up, add some little bit of pinch of salt, some cinnamon if you want, some vanilla if you want. So sometimes I do. Yeah, it has a thicker base. So if it depends on because you can stretch it then. Just depends how thick you want your milk. If you want it to be creamy, or if you want it to be 1%. You have to add water. Yeah, you do have to. It will make a thick paste if you don't add water. You can, but what I do is I'll just soak them. A lot of times you'll find that there's not much water because the nuts have soaked up all that water. So you add that and just add maybe a cup or 2 cups of hot water or warm water to it. Blend it. Any other questions? So I know there's a lot of these I'm going to call them fad diets, right? Because we always want a quick way to do things, right? And when you think about it, our bodies, we talked about the cell and how it was broken down and all the different building blocks it needs. If you starve your body of certain components, right? Maybe your muscle mass will decrease, right? But you need your muscle, right? So you're just affecting different parts of your building block. So holistically, right, when we want to work on our bodies holistically, God's original diet is the way. Okay? There is, if you want to come to me after, I can't think of the website right now, but there's a website where you can log in and do the 21 days. They'll email you recipes every single day. They'll even send you restaurant lists of where, if you want to eat out, what you can eat for free. 21 days. And trust me, it works. You'll see a difference if you need help in jump-starting. Yes to brown rice. Yes, we did say yes to brown rice. Not the full half of the plate. All right.
Thank you, Dr. Lindo. One thing I learned about Dr. Lindo, when she says an hour worth of material, she ain't playing. She means an hour worth of material. And guess what? It may have saved your life. I believe somebody's life in here is going to be saved. I believe that. You know, Jesus would have come to earth to save one person. Salvifically, would have to save one person if one person was lost. Imagine that. God, the Creator, coming to earth to save just one sinner. Would have done it. Coming to you today, if what you've heard from Laverne Reed, Dr. Lindo, could just save one life, our coming here would have been worth it. We've only spent 3 hours with you since it started. Only 3 hours. 3 hours to change your life. How about that? That's all it takes. You learn one thing in here that extends your life by one day, it would have been worth it. You'd have gotten your 3 hours back plus 8 times over. Okay? I did the math in my head. 8 times 3 is 24. 24 hours in a day. Don't play with me. I might have had a stroke, but I didn't lose my mind. Amen. Oh, by the way, I didn't tell y'all this, but from the time I started my plant-based diet in October, trying to reverse diabetes naturally, to the time that I ended my detox at the end of January 2018, which was a total of about, what, 5 months? I lost 60 pounds. People who see me now, who knew me before, man, what happened to you? And it amazes me that they're more concerned that something is wrong now that I've lost all the weight that I was when I was eating all the macaroni and cheese and the chocolate cakes and the ice cream and stuff, and I was weighing 240 pounds, you know. I've had to give away most of my suits. I'm a lawyer. I need a suit almost every day, you know. And to have them given away really hurts my feelings. I'm always trying to figure out how can I get it back without gaining the weight, you know. One guy actually called me. He said, yeah, a friend of mine told me you lost all this weight, man, but, you know, I'm a tailor, and I could actually do your suits for like $40 each and get you back in them. I said, yeah, they're gone now. You should have told me that 2 or 3 months ago. But anyway, God is so good. He has information for us because he loves us. You know, God doesn't just give us this information because he's not concerned. He gives it because he does, in fact, love his children, love his people. Amen. Guess what, folks? Y'all still have time to go home and sit by your fireplaces or around your family table and bring the Sabbath to a close, right? I always tell my family, you can't rush the end of the Sabbath now. Neither can you rush it coming in. Some people say, come on, y'all, let's open the Sabbath. No, the Sabbath's been open for 30 minutes already. You can't turn back the hands of time to do it. You got to wait till next week to do it right. All right. So what we're going to do at this time, Pray? Okay, I'm going to call my daughter up here, Kasha, who is the co-executive director of Share for Life, to give us our closing prayer. And she's bringing with her my grandson, who, by the way, I meant to mention this morning. Dr. Lindo is close to my family because she was present at the birth of my grandson. She was in the room, and she wasn't the doctor, but she's such a dedicated and loving friend. She came to be present, and she was there, and so we love her, always will. Thank you, Dr. Lindo.
Thank you all for your time. Let's please stand for prayer, and right after you all will be dismissed. Thank you for coming and supporting everyone. Okay. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for your Sabbath. We thank you for being a God who loves us and cares for us and cares what happens to our bodies. We thank you for caring about how we function each day. We thank you for being a God who cares about us having life and life abundantly, not just dragging through our days and our weeks, but enjoying the life that you've designed for us. We thank you because you're coming back to give us eternal life where we won't even have to worry about these things or coming together to discuss what the problems are and how to fix them, but just having an abundant eternal life with you. Thank you for your love for us. Help us not to be Adventists with a spectator spirit that just take it in and sit on good information, but help us each to go out and change our lives and share it with someone else so that ultimately you will receive all the praise, the honor, and the glory, and we will be vibrantly awaiting your soon return. In your name we pray, amen. Just kidding, one announcement.
So I did tell you I would give you the resources, right? So there's one website called lifeandhealth.org. Lifeandhealth.org. In this website, there's tons of information. There's videos of how to prepare different things. It's an excellent website, lifeandhealth.org. The other resource is called the 21-Day Vegan Kickstart. 21-Day Vegan Kickstart. If you just type that in to Google, it should come up, and it's the Physicians Committee Resources. I think that's the name of the organization. But then what you do is you just put in your information, and they will email you every day a menu, okay, recipes, and then if you want to eat out, it'll give you a list of things that you can eat out at on those days. The second one is called 21-Day Vegan Kickstart. Yeah, V-E-G-A-N, Vegan Kickstart, okay? And it's free. Free, y'all, free. Eating good can be free.
Two more resources I need to mention to you is one is Quan Yin. That's a vegan restaurant, very good. Run by the Vietnamese. Q-U-A-N, Quan Yin, Y-I-N. They are a Vietnamese vegan restaurant. One of my favorite places to eat here in Houston. The other name is Damasi's. It's a Mediterranean-style restaurant. I see a fan back there. We go there. We were there yesterday, as a matter of fact. Very delicious food. Now, all of their food is not vegan or vegetarian, but it's clean meats if you eat meat. You know, they're from a Muslim country, so they don't serve pork and that kind of thing. You don't have to worry about that. Or catfish. You don't have to worry about that. You get that from the soul food place across town. All right, so Damasi's has a great salad bar. And you know what I figured out about Mediterranean food, Middle Eastern food, a lot of it? You don't have to season it. It's perfectly seasoned. And they have some very exotic sauces like yogurt, garlic sauce. Oh, it is the best. It has that milk component in it. But I think the garlic, you know, the garlic